Welcome to Armchair Expert. I'm Dax Shepard. I'm joined by Monica Padman.
Hello.
We're in a very awkward situation right now.
Yeah, Wobby
Wob is holidaying. So Monica's running all the technical stuff. And so if you're hearing us right now, Monica did a great job.
Yeah, let's hope you're hearing us.
Good job, Monica.
Thank you.
Is there anything this gal can't do? I think not. Today we have someone who truly needs no introduction, but I'll give one anyways.
Yeah.
Chelsea Handler.
Oh, love.
What a party we had with her.
Yeah.
Very effing honest.
This is one of my favorite episodes.
Yeah.
She was really, really incredible.
She really was. Made my job easy as hell.
Mm-hmm.
It was really fun to talk to her. Now, she has a new book coming out. She's written a lot of great books.
Oh, yeah.
Her new book is called Life Will Be the Death of Me, and You Too. And it comes out April 9th, which is a mere week away.
Today.
So pick that up. You'll enjoy it. She's a great, great writer. She's hysterical and incredibly honest. It's a huge pleasure for us to give you Chelsea Handler. And one last thing, I'd like to announce that we are coming to San Francisco, Armchair Expert Live.
Ooh.
In the city by the bay, when the lights go down in the city.
Is that what city they're talking about?
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Armchair Live from San Francisco will be on Friday, May 31st, right on the knocking on the back door of summer. That's Friday, May 31st at the Bill Graham Civic Auditorium. Tickets go on sale this Friday, April 5th at 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. There's a link on our website, armchairexpertpod.com. So buy some tickets and party with us in the city by the bay.
He's an armchair expert. He's an armchair expert. He's an armchair expert.
How did you guys meet initially? I don't know the
Monica
backstory.
and I?
Yeah.
Monica and I's hobby is fighting with each other. Or we bonded over fighting about cereal, whether we thought Adnan had done it or not.
Right. And what did you think?
Well, I decided I didn't care if he did it, that he just shouldn't be in jail based on the evidence.
So you're like a lawyer.
Yeah, I'm a lawyer.
You're like, there's
I
not
am a
enough
lawyer.
exculpatory evidence, and you side with the law.
Exactly.
Exculpatory.
Exactly. I get that.
I just got kind of horny as exculpatory.
Yeah, I like that.
Anytime
There's
someone...
plenty of time to get horny.
Okay, I know. I'm trying to pace
So
myself.
just relax, everybody.
Yeah, I don't even really know where to start with you. But Chelsea, welcome to the attic.
Thank you for having me.
I'm really, really excited. And the tables are turned because we've yet only shared maybe 4 or 5 experiences where you interviewed me. And now here we sit.
Yeah, right.
I'm
That's
really
right.
excited, yeah.
This is a very exciting time for both of us.
It really is. It's a transitional phase for both of us. But I remember doing your show, and a better host would like reveal this much later in it. But I kind of had a crush on you.
Really?
For sure.
Wow.
Yeah. Like I think going to your show, it was more than just like, oh, I hope I'm funny. I'm like, I also hope she thinks I'm cute, or I hope,
Right.
you know what I'm saying? I hope there's some kind of rhythm that happens.
That's interesting because most men are really, scared of like me.
I was curious about that, sincerely. Are they?
I think so. Turned off is a better way to phrase it.
No.
No, they are because I'm overly opinionated and loud, and it's not a hot look for a lot of guys. Guys who are really secure with themselves sometimes are like more open to it, but usually guys my age or in my demo are not the guys that I appeal to. I have like a sweet spot with like 70-plus-year-olds.
Okay, all right.
And gay guys. But straight guys, typically like no one's hitting on me.
Because they're afraid.
That I want to hit on back.
Well, but
maybe, we say where they're afraid a lot, like girls say that. And I feel like that's a lame thing to say because I don't want to diminish men and say men are scared of intimidating women because I'm not trying to be intimidating. I just have a really, big mouth. And it's like, I wish I would shut up too sometimes.
Well, as a dude, I could float a few theories out there. One of them being, it's already scary to approach someone. It's already scary to kind of like put it out there. Hey, I kind of like you. That in itself, even if the person's mute and can't report this incident to anyone else, is already scary. Now you add on top of it that they have some sense of your sense of humor and that you can be acerbic when duty calls. That fuck, if this goes wrong, she might humiliate me or make fun of me.
Right.
And then it might be a story that then gets told.
Yeah.
So
that I totally relate to because I've done that. I've written about terrible like sexual experiences in my books, and I've written about bad dates. So that's totally warranted.
yeah. And when you did that, did you change their names? Or did you call them and ask if...
Sometimes I would call and ask for permission. When I first started writing books, the legal issues are you have to get permission from everybody. So I just changed names and disguised people. But it's so stupid because you're changing, like I was changing my siblings' names in my books. And it's like, it's not hard to figure out who I'm talking about.
Yeah. Yeah. If you can't talk about your fucking siblings, they're your, they're your siblings. How could there be a legal issue with that?
I think they are, like, I agree with that theory. Like if it's your family, you're allowed to talk about whatever you want. But it's like, for instance, my brother in this new book, I talk about my brother's wife. She's Russian and obviously an enemy of the state. And I talk about her a lot and not in the most flattering way. And I've told her how I feel about her. I love her ultimately. But I asked him, I'm like, is this really going to hurt her feelings? And he's like, no, go for it. So I did. And we'll see what happens when she reads the book and when it comes out. But I feel like you can take in your sibling, you can talk about your siblings, you talk about your own family, but people who have who are not your blood relatives, you don't have as much license with.
Well, yeah. And obviously, the people did not choose to be in the public light as you and I.
And I didn't choose to be in my family, so there you go.
Well, that one feels equal. Fuck you, I got you guys, and now you got me.
Right.
But maybe, friends from the past or something. They're like, hey, man, we met in a math class. I wanted to be an accountant. Not a bad lay story in your book.
Right, exactly. So boyfriends, to your point, you're absolutely right. Men, I've behaved in the way I've behaved in the past. That would include men feeling like, that would warrant men to feel like I don't ever want to go near that girl because she's going to ruin me on camera or in her book.
Yes. Well, I even on a way smaller side, Kathy Griffin, I've known for years because I was in the Growlings and she was in the Growlings. I adore her. I love when she's on Stern. I don't want to be around her at all. It's just a weird box she's painted herself into. I don't ever want to be the punchline to her stand-up.
Right.
Not that I know, and I don't mean to flatter myself that I would be, but just knowing that the whole routine is basically interactions with other people that are on TV, I'm like, well, why even be in that situation where I could end up there? And I love her, and I think she's funny and stuff.
Right. I'm sure Brooke Shields is like, why did you have to go and do that whole bit about, she did a whole bit about Brooke Shields and her mom, and it's like, wait, you were at their wedding. It can feel invasive unless you're fucking cool with it, and a lot of people are not cool with it.
Well, it's really funny. If I drilled super deep in my own ego and insecurities, it's also likely a status thing. If Robert Downey Jr. wanted to tell a story about me that was embarrassing, I'd be like, yes, do it. I just want the world to know you like me. Mm-hmm. But then if I deem the other person to be of my status or lower, then I'm like, you just keep that quiet.
Yeah, I think a lot of people in this industry do that. There are different tiers of success. And you're like, are you in this list or are you in that list?
Yeah, is there a story Michelle Obama could tell about you that you wouldn't welcome with open arms? You would, right? They could be like, you shit your pants at their house and you'd be like, tell it. Tell it to as many people who will listen.
Because that means that your guys are so familiar with each other. If you're best friends with Michelle Obama, you shit your pants there.
You had to wear a pair of Michelle's pants out of the house.
Yeah. Or Barack's.
Well, hopefully. You're lucky.
Exactly.
That would be Monica's choice for sure.
Yeah. I want to go back to intimidation really quick because it's not just men, right? Don't you think women are intimidated by you?
Well, what happened was, I was doing my show. I've been, doing some version of my show for 10 years. You'd get certain people who were like, well, they want to make sure, they would say, make sure, please don't bring up his weight when he came on. I forget who the male actor was. And I was like, bring up his weight? And they're like, yeah. And I'm like, I would never do that. They're like, of course you would do that. You've done it. You do it for Chewy every day on the show. I'm like, yes, but when you have a guest coming into your, so to speak, living room, you're going to treat them. I'm not going to go off on my guest. But then again, I did do that too. So everything that I'm accused of, I get it.
Yeah.
It just, in the moment, you're like, I'm not that kind of person. But when you look at it, you're like, oh, I see how I came across.
I am so glad you just said all that because it just reminded me of the very second thing I thought when I first did your show. And it came true. And I I went to do your show and I was like, what are the easy things to make fun of about me? I'm like, well, my girlfriend's more famous than me. And I was there, I think, the first time to promote this movie, When in Rome, that Chris and I both did.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I guarantee she's going to make imply I got the role because of Kristen. And fucking A, you did.
I did. Wow.
And then I came right over the top and was like, well, didn't your boyfriend give you this show?
Good one. That's a good comeback.
And how terrible. Like, I came with that in the chamber.
Yeah, but you should have. That's being prepared.
But that all happened. And in that moment, I just felt this kinship to you that I think I've always felt for you. Just observing you from the outside, where I've thought, I think you and I have had some similar childhoods or something where we've always got one in the chamber.
Yeah.
And I kind of feel bad for both of us that we would need to have one in the chamber at all times.
Yeah, well, that I know. It's a very defense, like, you have this attitude, like, I'm not ever nervous about, I guess not looking stupid, but like, I'm never worried about like me not having a quick enough like, I don't get nervous about, like, if somebody's an asshole, I want to go in, like Piers Morgan's an asshole,
Sure.
I went on his show and did an interview with him knowing he was an asshole, knowing he disrespects women and like doesn't, and interrupts you. But I like that challenge because it's fun for me. It gets me fired up so I can go off on somebody.
Yeah.
It's perfect foil. You're like, great, I'll be there at 3.
And again, that in itself is a unique characteristic. We were just flying home from San Antonio and I got into a fight with a good friend of mine about fucking the legal system, right? And I was getting real hot and Monica like kicked my foot like, hey, P.S., you're getting a little, loud for this flight. And and then during the, the next day we talked about it. I'm like, I hate to admit this. I actually enjoy that zone sometimes. I get it so infrequently because I'm surrounded by all women and I would be a fucking monster to be yelling and stuff at them. So yeah, like locking horns with this friend of mine who's, I kind of liked it.
Yeah, there are a lot of people who really are conflict avoiders. I'm a conflict, like I embrace conflict. I embrace it a lot less now that I've seen a proper psychiatrist and dealt with my childhood shit, which is what my entire book is about, my therapy. I would use the word journey, but I hate that word so much because The Bachelor ruined it so many years ago. But you realize there's a reason you like conflict. But there's also, I hate being somebody who doesn't, stand up for something or like if my two friends are in a fight, I like to take sides. I like to go, you're wrong and you're right. Like, like I like
levy a verdict.
Like, when your friends are like, hey, I need you to say something to that person.
Right.
And so I'm like, great, I'll do it. And now as I'm getting older, I realize, and now because I saw a shrink that helped me a lot, I realize, oh, it's not your place. You don't have to tell everybody all the time what they're doing wrong. Who the fuck am I to tell people?
Yeah.
And not everybody deserves your honesty. It's like you save that for the people in your life that are very important to you.
Yeah. I have a mantra I started, which is, and literally sometimes I have to be shouting it in my head, which is, your opinion's not required here. Your opinion's not required here.
That's me too.
All the other people in the world are getting by just fine when I'm not there. So why do I think when I'm there, it's crucial I defend this person or, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I think mine is pretty transparent in that I had a lot of stepdads. There were a lot of new people that had a new program that I had to follow quite often. And I was too young or too small or too physically incapable to defend my mom or to, I will not be a part of your terrible plan and your bad idea and your fucking bad judgment. I won't be a party to it.
You won't be taken advantage
I won't be taken. Yeah, I was molested. I will not trust, I won't let you fucking abuse my trust. So, and it's preposterous. Like you're saying, this is shit that I'm now 44. And I'm like,
I'm
really?
44 too. We're both 44.
I know. I'm a month and 23 days older than you.
Oh, wow. But who's counting?
Me.
Fucking weird, Monica.
Yeah,
no?
I know.
So your birthday is in January 2nd.
You did fast math. Yeah.
Oh, he did hook up.
No, I didn't. Man, you crunch those numbers like a goddamn calculator.
He really likes fast math, so that was really
Thank
impressive.
you. I'm also a really good speller, so hit me whenever you're ready.
But isn't it funny though when I'm in that zone, I have a whole narrative which is like, no, there's justice and I'm in a position to defend and all these things. Definitely not what the fuel in the tank is for that.
Right.
That's me.
Right. Yeah. Agreed. I think, it feels a lot cooler, like learning how to sit back and not insert yourself. Like I feel a lot cooler. I think also when you host a show, there's so much, you feel there's so much instilled pressure to always insert yourself, to always keep it moving, to make it funny, to make a joke, to make light of something, to make fun of something, to,
Yeah.
And like, that can become kinetic and it can become your way of life. And if you do a show and you're, on for 10 years, you start to be on all the time.
Yeah.
And I wanted to be off. I was like so over myself. So I think we all go through phases where we start to like grow up a little bit more and realize like less is more.
The more I like myself, the less of those other things I even care about. All these things that I think are pillars of what I care about. Magically, I don't really care all that much about them. Like on the days I like myself, I'm like, I can roll with a bad driver and I can roll with a shitty fucking person at work and all these things, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. So I'm now realizing it's all me. If I can get this thing like running tip top, I don't really have many problems. I can just see things for what they are. Oh, that person's scared and then that person's this.
Yeah. Right.
Makes
you feel much more sagacious too. You're like,
sagacious.
wow. Yeah, like
well,
the
now I
second
just
big
came.
word.
I just actually orgasmed.
What was the first one?
Can't even remember.
climaxed?
Exculpatory.
Exculpatory.
That was good.
Yeah.
That was good. We like
We
that
should maybe
here.
keep a list and
Of
put,
Chelsea's words?
'cause
I'm
we're-
already writing it all down. Don't worry. My assistant's outside the window.
Wait, one thing. I think the interesting thing is the person who really has the power is the one that knows they're being taken advantage of, quote, taken advantage of, and not care. Like Kristen Bell
Yeah.
always like knows, oh, that person thinks they're doing this, but I don't care because I'm better than that, really. So like to not care and to not fight back is actually, you actually have more power.
It's kind of aspirational, yeah.
Yeah, she is.
Yeah. She
Well,
sounds. I listened to your interview once driving up to Lake Bass, the one that you did with Kristen.
And you were happy you didn't get married?
I thought it was very brave that you put that out there, and that you didn't care that everyone heard you guys just bickering for an hour, basically.
And what a control freak I was in that whole thing.
But I mean, I think that kind of honesty, like I think that's important. I mean,
Yeah.
it's also good for people to hear because everybody thinks that their only things are happening to them in their life. You know what I mean? And it's relatable.
Or even worse, that like you're going to bump into somebody and they're your missing piece. And then that'll be it. Like you'll just now be on a honeymoon for the next 20 years. Like even this thing you guys think is so cute is like a ton of fucking work.
Right.
We don't wake up in the mood to just get along all day long. That happens maybe 1 in 20 days.
Yeah, it's almost unethical for you to do the Samsung commercial and then not air it. Like you
Right.
have to balance that out.
Right. No, but back to childhood, because the other fun thing, not only are we born within, just mere days of each other. Your dad owned a used car lot?
Well, a lot is an exaggeration. It was
Okay.
more like a driveway.
Okay.
And it was the driveway in front of our house. So I don't think he really, he fancied himself a used car dealer, but there wasn't a lot of turnover. Like the cars would come in and then just be there.
But
there wasn't a lot of selling of the cars. There was a lot of collection.
Sure. He loved finding a good deal that he
Yeah.
was certain he could.
Really
Yeah.
embarrassing.
Okay, but my dad sold cars my whole life. The kind of education I got from him about the world, I think, was dramatically shaped by the fact that he had that job.
Yes.
Like you're saying, yeah.
Shyster.
When
My dad was a shyster.
well, here's
He was dishonest.
right. Here's what the way I was going to dress it up was my dad's only moral imperative was make money. Like that was the moral imperative. Like fucking make money and then you're set. That's what life's about. So by hook or crook, whatever you got to do, just fucking make that money. And I just wondered if that was kind of synonymous in the used car game.
Yeah, I think if you're a used car dealer, things probably just didn't work out the way you thought they were going to, because no one grows up and says, I want to sell used cars. I mean, maybe you want to sell cars, but you don't set out to sell used ones.
Right.
That's not a goal.
Although that is where all the profit is, by the way. Just
It's
side
kind of like
note.
dentists. You're like, well, is this really your passion, or did medical school not work out? Because who really wants to go into somebody's mouth and clean out a cavity? That can't be like what drives you. It's a responsible career and it's a good career choice because you can make money, but is it? It just feels
Safe. Yeah.
or unintended,
Sure.
or like a fallback.
Yeah.
To all the dentists out there, I just want you to know how much I appreciate you.
Oh, I've already
They're
gotten in
already
trouble with dentists
suicidal.
because we talk about how much they commit suicide and that,
Yeah,
people,
you're right.
but at a very high rate.
I'm in trouble with the veterinarian committee. Because, community.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
What'd you do?
Well, I guess I
veterinarian.
will be in trouble because the book's not out yet, but I talk a lot in the books about how vets really just don't have any like concrete information for you.
Oh.
You know, every time you rescue a dog, they're between 4 and 12.
Yes,
Like
yes.
it's a big margin of error.
Yes.
Or they say, oh, she has an infection and we're going to remove all of her teeth. And then you say, well, why would you remove all of their teeth? Like, I mean, she's going to have to chew. Can't we keep some of them? And the woman on the phone, she's like, well, we're going to remove the ones that are infected. I'm like, right. So what if they're not all infected? And she goes, well, we'll see when we get in there. I'm like, you know what?
No.
Why don't I take my dog to my own fucking dentist? Because forget about it.
What if she goes, we'll see when we get them out.
Yeah.
First we'll remove them, and then we'll put them through a battery of tests, and then we'll know pretty certainly.
Right.
I have a separate but adjacent pet peeve, which is, and look, I couldn't be a bigger proponent of rescuing dogs. I think it's awesome. My wife has rescued 1 trillion dogs. But every fucking person who I meet who has rescued a dog, it's always, yeah, she was being abused. Every single person's rescued dog was abused. And I just want to know, functionally, how would you know that information?
Exactly.
Were you observing the dog in its last home? How is this even known?
The dogs tell them.
Apparently the dogs tell them, but it does seem that about 98% of people who rescue dogs, they rescued them from an abusive relationship.
Yeah, because what people do is they turn their dogs in and say, hey, I'm abusing this dog. Will you take it from me? Yeah.
But did Dad have a worldview that you could maybe sum up for me? Or
He was, my dad was.
is he still alive?
No, he died last year, actually, a few months ago, actually. But he was old and he needed to die. Like it was like there was no quality of life. He was in a old age home. And I mean, I'm glad he's gone because that was no way to live. And, you don't want to remember people at their worst. You want to remember them at their best. And my mom had a long, slow death.
Yeah.
So that wasn't ideal. She was really sick. My dad wasn't. He just was in a home, But his philosophy, I mean, he was dishonest. He was kind of in love with himself. Like he thought highly of himself. He loved that he had so many children because it meant he was, masculine.
Virile, yeah.
And he was he was a little chauvinistic, but he was like filled with a lot of life. We had a really great time growing up. There was a lot of drama and trauma because my brother died when I was a little girl. So that was bad. But my dad really never recovered from that after my brother died. He just kind of lost his oomph.
You're such a fun guest because, a couple of things I want to bring up is at 9, what is that like when your brother dies, and what does that do to the whole family? And then I'm thinking I'll eventually have to tiptoe around, and then you're just like, here it is. But which I applaud and I love about you. But I gotta say this. I watched a few minutes of your marriage documentary. I had watched the drugs one a long time ago, and I loved it. It's so good, by the way.
Thank you.
I watched the marriage one just today, and I watched Dad walk in the kitchen, and you're like, hi, is that you? He says, is that you? And then, yeah, it's me. And then he goes, I love you. And then he goes, I miss you. To me, I heard oh, guilt. You're not around enough. That's something my dad would have. It would have been I love you, but then there would have been just one word that I knew what meant, which was you're not around enough. And then was Mom the love of your life? And then he won't cop to that.
Right.
And I was like, there's so much happening within 4 sentences of this interaction that for me feels familiar.
Yeah, I'm like, was Mom the love of your life? He's like, the love of my life? I don't know about that.
Yeah, I don't know about that.
You've been talking about moms and she died every day. You're talking about my mother and Rita and then we ask him the question straight out and he's like, no, I'm not sure if she was the love of my life. I mean, that's totally my dad, can't commit.
He intentionally wanted to marry a non-American.
And a non-Jew because he wanted a shiksa because my grandmother was a mean Jewish bitch. And she was like, listen, and his father was like, listen, don't marry one of these Jewish women. They're going to drive you nuts. You got to marry a Gentile. Uh-huh. And I grew up thinking my mom was Jewish for the first 10 years of my life. I didn't learn that she wasn't until my brother died and they had to bury him in a Jewish cemetery. And then the whole family has to get plots or whatever. And it was revealed to me that my mother was Mormon at that time.
From Germany, no less.
And yeah, there's a big Mormon contingency in Germany. So I found out she was Mormon. I didn't know what Mormon was. And then, that wasn't something that I was going to be interested in, even at 9.
And she just obviously put that on the back burner when she married your father.
Yeah. She came over after the war. And, long after the war, but like
1958.
it was a sensitive subject for a Jewish guy to marry her. So she said, yeah, we'll raise all the kids Jewish, no problem.
Right.
But once my brother died, she was like, fuck this, I'm going back to my religion. And she became Mormon.
Oh.
And she converted my sister to become Mormon as well.
Oh, really?
And did she try to convert you?
Yeah, they had me read the Book of Mormon, and then I just was like, this is so stupid.
Right.
This is not how I want to live my life.
Yeah.
Accepting Jesus
You didn't
Christ.
believe that Jesus was born in the United States?
No,
Oh,
no, I did not
okay.
believe that.
No disrespect to Mormons, but that is one of the more amusing aspects that he was born in Missouri. Did you read Under the Banner of Heaven?
I didn't read that book, no, but I've heard about that book.
Joseph Smith's receiving a lot of revelations from God, and he will disperse them to the parishioners as they come in, and he's starting to sleep with many members of the group that follow him.
Ugh.
And now some of the revelations are specifically about his wife. And it's like, and God said to me last night, Mary, stay out of my business. They started getting like so many of the early revelations are directed directly at his wife, basically saying,
Oh my God.
you just stay out of his business and let him handle it. Anywho, that's comedically pretty juicy. But when I was watching Dad and I was thinking, oh, he got a gal from Germany and this, it is a technique for some men to kind of withhold approval, withhold affection, withhold these things to maybe keep self-esteem a little low because you don't think you're worthy of this. So maybe if that person feels shittier about themselves, I look good in comparison. I'm reading a lot into it, but when I heard maybe not the love of my life, I thought, oh, that's a technique.
Yeah, that was weird for me to hear too, because my dad would go on and on about my mom, like our whole lives, and even after she died. So when he did say that in that interview, it was like, what are you talking about?
Yeah, who are you playing up for?
So I don't know what that was about, but
Okay.
But my dad he was very manipulative. Like I didn't like the way he conducted himself. He wasn't honest. He wasn't fair. People were marginalized in his life. Like, if we had a guy working at the house, the guy would be waiting outside to be paid. Say he was doing yard work. And my dad would be like, well, if he wants the money, he can knock on the door. And it's like, well, the guys, like that kind of shit that made me sick growing up. And I was like, I don't ever want to be dishonest or cheat or lie. You know what I mean? Like I wanted to be independent, so I never had to rely on a man.
Yeah.
Because that was my father, and that was what men looked like. And the other issue was that my brother died when he was 9 and swore to me, like on our last night, that he was coming back, and he's like, I will never leave you with these crazy people, referring to my parents. He was the oldest and I was the youngest, so we were bookends.
And there's 6 of you?
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
And so he was like my first crush.
And Monica, he went hiking in the Grand Tetons in Jackson Hole, right?
Yeah. And then he fell off a cliff.
Oh, my
So
God.
that was pretty brutal. And until I met this psychiatrist who I actually interviewed on my Netflix show for an episode on like early education and adolescent brain development, he explained to me that when something like that happens when you're 9 years old, you get stuck, you're stunted from that age because you have to wrap yourself up so you don't feel the pain. My father fell apart. My mother fell apart. Everyone just retreated into their own corners. And until somebody said, you, as a 9-year-old, you digested that as rejection. He rejected you. He went off and found another family.
Well, he cared about something more than you.
Yes.
He valued this trip weirdly more than you, right?
And he wasn't careful. He wasn't careful. He told me he was going to come back, and he lied to me. So in my 9-year-old head, that was, oh, you can never trust men. They will always lie to you.
Yeah.
Even though I was like, it's so obvious, but yet until you do that work and like kind of talk to someone who's a professional and studies that, I didn't realize I was acting like a 9-year-old with regard to any men. So back to what we were talking about in the beginning, how men are fucking scared of me. It's because I'm fucking scared of them.
Yeah. 100%.
So it's rejection before you get rejected, which is obviously like class A, whatever, typical textbook behavior. But it helps to hear it from someone that has nothing to do with your life. Because I think, for me, I never wanted to go to therapy and really dig it up because I thought I was too smart. I'm like, I know my brother died. I know I have problems, but whatever, it's working. I'm strong. I've got my shit together. I've got a career. I've got everything I wanted in my life, my friends, my family, blah, blah, blah. And it is a cliche, especially, to hit 40 and all of a sudden go, what the fuck is going on? Why am I acting like this? But it was so worthwhile to like actually have a professional that you're paying. You know what I mean? Because I like that exchange. I don't want to burden people with my problems. I want somebody to get money for it.
Yeah, 100%.
So that was, it's exactly what you're saying. We do have a lot in common because it's about unearthing that and saying like, okay, and now, a year of like really hardcore therapy. And I was like, okay, now I need a break. I got it. I got my problems.
Yeah.
And now I need to retreat, understand everything I've learned and change my behavior so that it's not as in your face and not as like nail scratchy, and be softer and more gentler and actually like look to find somebody in this life. Yes, I do want a boyfriend. It's okay to say that.
Yeah.
Before it was embarrassing to say I want a boyfriend,
Right.
Yeah.
I don't want kids. I still don't want that. And I'm not embarrassed by that. I know that it's not a good use of my time, but it's okay to admit that you want to be in a relationship. And before that was just like, that to me reeked of weakness.
Stay tuned for more Armchair Expert, if you dare.
Well, it's all very, very tricky, right? Because if you establish a checklist of if I get that and I get this and I end up here and I have this amount of money and blah, 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 blah. So all these characteristics, sure, I get it. They're from trauma, big deal. They're getting me this list. And then the worst thing that could ever happen to you is you could obtain everything on the list, right? And then go, oh, this is curious. I still don't feel good. And I guess the goal isn't to get the shit on the list. The goal is to like enjoy this ride. Like if you have all the shit and you're in pain and discomfort and agony, who gives a flying fuck?
Well, so many people are like, well, money can't buy you happiness. And it's like, well, it fucking helps, okay? Like being successful fucking helps your mood.
Yeah.
I mean, and I'm not a depressive. I've never had depression. So, knock on wood, I know that's a serious issue that I'm grateful that I don't have. So it's hard to recognize what your issues are until you stop spinning so fast, For me, it was just move, work, do a tour, do a show, do a book, do this, and that the emptiness became... everything just became so fast.
Yeah.
And I was missing my own shit, And it wasn't until the election that I really freaked me out and like really shook me so hard. And when I went to go talk to, a professional about my outrage that I felt, it was like, okay, this outrage, yes, Donald Trump's awful and, should not be our president. But this is so deep. This is an inside job, is what I learned. That my outrage, he doesn't have to affect my mood. He doesn't have to ruin my life. I have deeper issues that I need to
Also owning the fact that
unravel.
like you're giving permission for that person to have that effect on you.
Yeah.
Ultimately.
I lost a year of I gained a year of my life in a sense, but I lost a year of my life because I couldn't even work. I couldn't do anything but watch the news. And what that represented to me was my childhood being out of control because like the world's a good place. We are in America. The adults will take care of the political stuff and we just have to keep cashing our checks.
Right.
Didn't realize like, oh, I'm not really looking outside of my own lane. I'm not thinking about what it's like to be, a marginalized person in this world. I'm a woman, but I'm white, I'm successful, I'm pretty.
Hot.
I got rewarded for bad behavior my entire career.
Yeah.
Talking about guys, sleeping around, writing books about sleeping around. I mean, everything I did was rewarded. And why? Because I'm privileged. You know what I mean? I'm just fucking lucky. That's it.
Yeah. Me too. I got a horseshoe up my ass. Back to mom. So, did
Feels like therapy.
That's what we do.
The goal.
Outside of the couch.
It's the only thing I'm really interested in, to be honest with you. Like fucking motorcycles and like talking about feelings. So unless you want to go riding, you couldn't have been like super stoked. Mom was who she was. If you were aspiring to be a very vocal, self advocate, and mom, as you would learn, drops her religion, all these things. Was she a little bit of a disappointment in who you would have wanted her to be?
My mom just was like very different from me. She was very like shy and soft spoken. She wasn't like, she didn't understand how she even gave birth to me. We're total opposites. I'm like a lot more like my dad, like you are saying yourself. So my mom was I wasn't disappointed. I mean, I was disappointed in her in many ways because she never would show up. They never picked me up from school or Hebrew school. They would like leave me for hours. They did that to all of my brothers and sisters. So it wasn't like I was special in that regard. But
you were also number 6?
Yes.
Also, let's just acknowledge what a life if she came here in 1958, she's like a 4-year-old during World War II, right?
Yes.
I mean, what a fuck, like if she just ended up somewhere that had heat, it ain't all that bad. Like
Right.
it's not like she was giving up a chance to be a doctor in a great country. It's like, fuck, if she just landed somewhere where someone was like, there was a house, that's a big victory. So I'm not judging at all.
Yeah,
her.
no. You can judge my mom. I don't give a shit. I mean, I don't judge her in that way. Like,
But you want your parents to be someone you want to aspire to be. One of my weirdest resentments about my dad is that I wanted him to be a guy I was trying to be like, and then I wanted that guy who I idolized to look at me and say, you did it, man. I'm fucking proud of you. I'm going to hand this torch to you. I mean, what a bizarre thing to have a resentment. He did say, I'm proud of you, but I wanted it to come from a person I respected.
that's right. I know that I had that feeling with my dad. I was very interested in impressing my father and having my father understand like that I was powerful and that I was strong. My mom just represented to me not a strong woman. Like she wasn't on the deed for our house growing up.
Right.
She never made the decisions. It was always my dad that was the boss. And I didn't want like that. To me, it was like, okay, I had two examples. I mean, I have two other brothers, but they're, my two biggest attachment figures were my father and my brother, and both of them took off.
Right.
So, I mean, my father was physically there, but it would have been better had he actually physically taken off, maybe, because he was just wrecked. And, I think when a man loses their firstborn child, especially a son, I think that's you don't get over it.
Yeah.
Ever.
Yeah, and do you think he, at any level, had assigned some responsibility to that obviously he doesn't deserve? Did they butt heads, and was your brother doing that as a, fuck you, I'm not going to be like you, and I'm going to go do this thing? Was he on some level aware of like, oh, this all was in retaliation of me, and look where it led?
No, my brother wasn't like that. My brother really played ball with my dad. He was like the second dad in our family. It's my other brothers that really rebelled, and like when he was the good son. You know what I mean? So when he died, it was like you almost felt like, oh God, did they wish it was one of us? Like,
right.
I definitely was like, they probably want me to be gone.
Yeah.
And I think everyone probably had that because you're a kid. You don't know any better. You're not choosing who's dying, obviously, but. It's just it's a fuck job. Death is agony. It is agony, and it hits you, and you cannot. The only way through it is literally through it. You can't go around it because it creeps back up on you like any of our issues from our childhood. Yeah. So, I'm glad now that I have the ability and the vocabulary to articulate my pain instead of just pretending that everything's fine and getting through it with somebody, again, who I'm paying to get me through it.
Right.
Not a boyfriend or a friend who's like, shut the fuck up already.
You can give me $100 when you leave if it makes it all feel a little cleaner transactionally. Okay. So, as a result of this childhood, what kind of kid are you in high school? Because I saw a picture of you. I guess it was in that episode too, where I was like, oh, I knew that girl.
Yeah, I was pretty bad.
What does that mean? I need more detail.
Her hair is fucking on point.
Yeah,
there's
Jersey.
hairspray galore.
Oh,
she's a fox, and it also looks like this is going to be a party, so buckle up.
Yeah, it was
like you were a party probably in eighth grade, yeah?
I was a party in 8th grade. I ended up leaving. I went to high school in Somerville, New Jersey, and lived with one of my brothers for a year. Because after my brother died, my relationship with my father just went haywire.
It did.
And then I was 9, and then I was 12, and then I couldn't take it.
Yeah.
I grew up really fast. I mean, I just didn't have any respect for authority when I was growing up because my authority figures, like, as I've said, were just not reliable. No one was reliable. So I was like, oh, this is up to me. I've got to make a life for myself. I was like, at 12, I was like, I'm leaving. I'm going to go live with Glenn, my brother, who was away on business trips all the time. And I lived in a condo with him, and I started dating this football player. I got pregnant. I was a fucking disaster. Not when I was 12, but, like when I was 16, I was a fucking disaster. And I put my parents through hell. And... and I mean, my brothers and sisters to this day were like, I can't believe they survived as long as they did with you because I just had no respect for them.
Yeah.
So do you think you were punishing them?
I was punishing yes, I think I was. I didn't want I was embarrassed about my family, but what I really was in pain about my brother, but I couldn't talk about my brother because everyone else was falling apart. And I never cried in front of anyone for like 15 years.
Yeah.
If I cried about my brother, I had to go outside, go on my bike, and I'd go for a long ride. And if anyone in my family said anything about my brother, I'd leave the house. I was like, I'm not going to be weak like you people.
Right.
I saw my dad crumble and cry every day. Like you'd walk by their bedroom and they'd be like bawling together in the morning. And I'd be like, oh, these fucking bastards. When are they going to get their shit together?
Yeah, like just kill yourself too.
Yeah.
I need you.
I need
By the way,
someone.
we all need you.
Right,
yeah.
right.
Buck up and fucking straighten out for a second.
And sometimes, until you say those things out loud with someone, you don't you forget them. You know, when somebody talks to you and has the time that you put in, like, you know, my psychiatrist is like, this is your mental gym. I want you to think of this as, because I'm so into being physically strong that I want to be mentally strong, because the two go together. And once he said, this is like your mental gym, I was like, okay, I'm committed. Like, I get that analogy. But it takes a long time to understand that. It takes a long time to understand that vulnerability is like strength. That's real strength.
Like baller fucking, I've heard a million great interviews on Howard Stern, but the one that blew my mind the most is Jason Ellis, who's got his own show on XM.
Yeah.
He went on Stern and talked about his father molested him his whole life, and he still loves his dad. And this is a dude with a shaved head who fights MMA, tattoos everywhere, ex-pro skateboarder, and for an hour and a half said, yeah, let's talk about that, and went through the whole thing. Never have I seen something as brave as that. I mean, that is like jumping the Grand Canyon to be able to do that.
Does he still have a relationship with him?
Yeah, I think it's a bizarre... No, his father ultimately died competing with his other brother hiking up a mountain, like couldn't accept that he was 65 and literally blew his heart up trying to like prove he could be just as fast. But anywho, when I heard him say that, I was like, oh, that's what a real badass is. That's fucking John Wayne, a dude who could go out in public and say, yeah, my dad. And that blows my mind.
I don't understand that.
Yeah.
I don't understand how you could want a relationship with somebody who violated you like that. I don't know. But again, like none of us know what the fuck that's like unless it happens to you.
Yeah.
You know? And so it's just so... it's easy for us to give advice to other people or be like, how could you talk to that person? And we don't know what everybody's story is.
Yeah. But the headline is to me more like, wow, look at the power of that familial bond that we desire. Like that, if you need a case study of how much we need that, here's a guy who's abused forever who's still desiring that.
Yeah.
Holy shit, we need that thing.
Id Patel has a good joke when he goes, you're a little kid and you think your dad's Superman, and then you grow up and realize he's just an asshole wearing a cape. and I always am like, oh yeah, because we grow up and we find out it's like meeting somebody you really admire and then totally disappointing you.
Yeah. That generally is the high percentage that'll happen.
That happens a lot.
But so were you able though to juggle some balls? Were you like
I can juggle balls.
You can juggle. I can juggle your balls right now. Were you able to also like maintain okay grades and stuff while you were still being a good time?
I always got by. I mean, I wasn't doing well, and I definitely lost a year of credit for school in my junior year of high school. So then I had to go back to Livingston, New Jersey, where I was from with my parents. My parents were like, okay, you can't live with Glenn. You just lost a credit. I never went to school. I just took my brother's car, drove it around town, probably was smoking weed.
Sure.
I wasn't really drinking that at that age, but and then...
How young were you when you had sex the first time?
Young. 14.
Yeah, okay.
I think it was my first year of high school, and I wanted to make sure everybody knew I had arrived.
Sure.
No, but I had an older boyfriend that wasn't in the high school, and when I was 14, and
he was a lawyer.
He was exactly. It was Paul Manafort. I lost my virginity when I was young, but again. Like, I don't blame that on any person, man. I blame that on, I wanted an older boyfriend. I wanted to, get serious about where my life was headed when I was done with my family. Because my whole thing was, get away from my family so my life can begin.
Sure.
And then, once I was away from my family, I realized how much I loved them. And that everyone was just trying to do the best that they could. I mean, maybe not the best, but everybody was trying to get by.
Do something.
They minimally had good intentions, whether the execution was good or not.
My anger was abated greatly when I was able to just move to California, and then I was like, oh yeah, my family's not so bad. You meet all these fucking nutcases out here, and so many people don't even talk to their relatives. That I was like, I don't want to be like that. That's not my goal. But
you graduated.
Yeah. So anyway, I ended up going back to Livingston. I had to go to this thing called alternative school, so I could complete 2 years for criminals.
Yeah.
Complete 2 years of education in one. So I finished my junior and senior year in 1 year to graduate on time, and then I hightailed it out to LA.
Could you smoke cigarettes at that school?
I don't think I smoked cigarettes at that point.
But could other students? Because my best friend Aaron Winkley,
Yes,
he went to an
yes,
alternative
yes,
high school,
yes, they could.
and one of the ways they they realized like, well, half the reason these guys are skipping school is they just want to smoke cigarettes. So you could fucking smoke cigarettes in the classroom.
Oh no, we couldn't smoke cigarettes in the classroom, but that sounds like
I kind of like progressive. Yeah. I kind of embrace this whole thing. It'll progress you towards lung cancer quite rapidly.
like that is a good idea for people like that who aren't going to graduate. Like, they should be, whatever you got to get them to sit still.
Let them sit in a hot tub, kill darts,
masturbate, circle jerk, whatever.
circle jerk each other, as long as they like grab some of that information. But so when you looked around at your classmates at the alternative high school, were you embarrassed that that's where you had ended up?
Oh, yeah. I didn't want anything to do with any of those people. I was like, okay, losers, I'm not.
I'm not one of you.
I'm not in jail. Actually, my boyfriend, Tyshawn was his name, the black guy that I got pregnant with. I hung out with him in Somerville, New Jersey, where my brother lived. So we got arrested a couple times when I was. He got arrested. I never got arrested because I'm white, and he was black, and he got arrested 3 times, and he had a full scholarship to UNLV or one of those basketball schools. I think it was UNLV. Yeah, and his whole life, was derailed. So I actually reunited.
Were they like possession charges?
Yeah, like he got, he was caught with weed, and then he was put in the system, and then he was caught with weed again.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, he was just trying to he wasn't a bad guy. He just got. They were looking for him to fuck up, and people aren't looking for, white girl. Every time we were together and we got arrested or he got arrested, they told me they're like, you can go, get out of here. And then they would arrest him.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
So I just did a documentary for Netflix on white privilege, and we went and met him, Tyshawn, who I haven't seen since I was 16. I'm 40. I just turned 44. So that was fucking weird.
Wow.
Yeah.
And on camera, which is so, I was like, oh my God, my vagina hurts just thinking about how nervous I was. It was just, I didn't want to do it, but I knew I had to for the film. And
How did he hold up looks wise?
Well, he spent the next 14 years incarcerated, so he's only been out of jail for 3 years. He's got 5 different children with 5 different women. But he's not dealing drugs anymore.
Yeah.
So anyway, the documentary was on white privilege, and I was like, okay. And so they became a very personal story where I was just going to explore the topic of white privilege and see, we went to the South, of course, and talked to people, and the thing about white privilege is white people don't want to talk about it because, and it's our problem. It's not like we can expect people of color to fix our privilege. We have to fix it.
Yeah.
So it was an interesting subject matter, but it ended up getting very personal. And then I was like, oh my God, why do I keep having to fucking see my ex-boyfriends on camera?
Yeah.
I keep doing these documentaries where the director's like, what would be interesting? And I'm like, I don't have any other boyfriends who are willing to speak to me, so stop.
Leave me alone.
Leave me alone.
Yeah, but at a certain point, do you question well, clearly I'm manifesting this. It's not like
I'm pretty much up for anything as long as it is on camera. There are things I will do on camera that I wouldn't do privately. If there's a camera there and I think it's a learning experience and that it can and that a million other people might have the same, iowaska, I was happy to do on camera because I know people are so curious about that.
They sure are.
So it's
I was really bummed that you didn't shit yourself or throw
me too.
up.
I know.
I
threw up.
Oh, you did.
My shaman shit himself 3 times, so he did it for the both of us. And didn't even bother going to the bathroom. The whole fucking room smelled like shit. In Peru.
Oh my God.
I was in this little tent in Peru, and I'm like, fuck, I can't even get out of here because there's fucking anacondas everywhere.
Okay, I don't think of myself as a prima donna, but when I was watching that episode, I'm like, yeah, sign me up to do ayahuasca. I'm so curious. Of course I can't, but I would if I was.
A lot of people do it to get sober.
I've heard that. Yeah.
But I guess
and that's great. Look, I'm in favor of however people get sober. Regardless, I do wish I had done ayahuasca because I want to have done everything on planet Earth before I leave. So I watched that episode with great curiosity, and I was like, God bless you, because the first warning is you're likely to shit your. No, let's back up. When you go into that fucking tent, I'm like, I want nothing to do with that tent right out of the gates. It's not like I live at the Four Seasons, but I'm like, just knowing that this is a communal area where most people shit themselves, I don't want to be in there at all. I was already having so much anxiety just of the setting. Were you at all going like, okay, so this is where this is all going to go down, and they're telling me there's a toilet over there. I'm assuming the previous users of the toilet weren't in a great space when they used it. Do you have any of that stuff?
I'm not into being in Peru as a general. I mean, I've been there too many times. Actually, I've been there two or three times, and 2 or 3 too many, depending on how many times I've actually been there. But I think once I get into once I know what I'm doing, I'm open to anything. I like to be out of my comfort zone. That's when I'm comfortable, when I don't know what the fuck is happening. When everything's produced and planned is when I don't like it.
Right.
I don't like sticking to a script. I don't like pre-production. I don't like talking about things ad nauseum. I like things to be impromptu. And so that kind of gets my juices flowing.
Well,
So
you got to get into survival mode, right?
Yeah.
I don't make great jokes during massages. You know what I'm saying? It's like,
They love
Dad's
that.
dying. Ooh, I
Masseuses
thought
love
of a
that.
great one.
Right. Yeah.
So you go in there.
I mean, I'm not really good with shit. So I was hoping that wouldn't happen, and it didn't. I don't care about vomit. I can deal with that.
Okay.
But feculent, this shit.
Yeah.
It makes me nauseous.
Sure.
And so when he was shitting in front of me, my eyes were closed, and I was like, just don't open your eyes.
Hold on. He was
He's just shitting in his pants.
No.
Yeah, he just shat in his pants that he had on.
3 times.
Yeah, and a friend of ours recently reached out to me. She's like, I saw your ayahuasca episode. Can we, is there any way we can hook up, with that? Can you get that information of that shaman in Peru and the lodge you stayed in? And I was like, listen, that guy fucking shat his pants the entire time. And no one knows it because no one was in that room with me except my camera woman, Nicola, who knows. Because the smell was out of hand.
Oh boy.
But I gotta tell you, I was
boy.
I was in the moment, and I had a great experience. And I didn't really do the cleanse before. They tell you not to drink for 2 weeks and not to eat certain foods. And I think they were right about that because it didn't affect me the first night at all. And so I had to do it 2 nights in a row. And then the second time he gave me a double dosage. And that's when it all happened. But I was in my mode, and I was like, just take everything you can get out of this moment and don't pay attention to the fact that he's shitting his pants.
Right.
Don't let him ruin your fucking parade.
Yeah, don't let some guy shit in his pants.
God forbid it doesn't work again. I have to come back here tomorrow night. So
Yeah.
just get into it.
So if you could, so the first night it just didn't work, but it was working for other people. Like Jenny was working for.
Yeah,
and so-
Jenny and Dan, my friend Dan, did it with me, and they had crazy vomiting, shitting. They were crying. Both of them were bawling.
Yeah.
They both were overcome. You're overcome with love for, if you're married, your wife. If you have children, your children. For me, it was my sister. And I was just, it's like this sorry. I won't use another word like that. I know, I sound so obnoxious when I
you're
use-
supposed to. We're going to make
Yeah,
a
we
little
love
list.
it.
Yeah.
Phantasmagoria. Okay, it's like an iPod fast shuffle of you as a kid. You see all these memories of yourself, and all of us had the same childlike thing. You see yourself as a kid, but you're not in your body. You're above your body, and you see scenes playing out from your childhood in fast forward motion, like an iPod shuffle.
Right.
And it would just switch gears, and it would go to me and my sister in our summer house in Martha's Vineyard on the water, laughing, running on the beach, holding hands. There were dogs that we had as a child that I didn't remember. There were, that were there. I was like, oh my God, I forgot about that dog. They were all real things.
And they were all positive.
Yeah, I didn't have anything negative. It was all positive. I thought for sure it was going to be my dead mom or my
Sure.
brother. I was like, okay, get ready. Or snakes. I have a huge phobia of snakes, and we were in the fucking jungle.
So while you're watching your life virtually flash before your eyes, you're overcome with the connectedness with the people in your life, or is there any euphoria? Is there a body buzz? What's going on
Yeah,
physiologically?
You're everything feels good and positive light. In my experience, more of an overcome with happiness and love towards someone or something. And then you want to, I was like, oh, I have to be nicer to my sister. My sister is not me. I'm so demanding of her, always pushing her to do more, to, experience life, to leave New Jersey. And it was just an epiphany. It was she doesn't want to fucking live in LA. She's not
me.
you.
Yeah,
She doesn't need attention. You do. She doesn't need this life. You need it. So it was a big epiphany in that sense.
Yeah. So that was the thing you walked away with.
Yeah.
How long does it last?
Few hours. Well, and then I had this voice. So it's like somebody's telling you something. And then at the very end of that, it would switch gears, and it said, there was this voice in my head saying, you don't have to surround yourself with so many people all the time. You can be alone. There's safety in being alone. You can find joy by yourself. And all I was thinking at that moment was I just want to go downstairs with my crew and have a drink. I tell them what just happened. I already got the sister part. I'm I don't need more shit. I'm let's wrap this up. It smells like fucking shit in here. And then I was like, okay, I could lie here and I could experience this, or I could go down and share it. And I was like, I just want to go be with my friends. And so I went downstairs and I was like, all right, let me tell you what happened. But it was when I watched it back, I was like, oh my God, because I look so peaceful and I'm crying but they're tears of joy. You're just overcome. You want to love someone so much. That's how you feel.
Yeah. Two thoughts during that. One, can you imagine the level of self-esteem one would have to shit their pants and stay seated and stare right at you? I can't imagine feeling that confident that I could just have full shit in my pants and not be humiliated and running away. Like, I really admire this guy.
A lot of practice, I think. You have to shit your pants a lot in front of people. And A, and B, I think he was so fucking high out of his mind.
Sure.
What I took one of, he took three of.
Ooh.
Okay.
And I don't know that he found out about his pants until after the ceremony was over.
Okay. All right. Well, I guess, yeah. So maybe I shouldn't applaud him that much. My second thing I heard that I was like, oh, that's so me is while something's happening, I will almost shift gears into no longer experiencing it, and I'm already transferring it to who I'm going to tell it to, or who I'm going to include, right, or who I'm going to
the story.
I guess just entertain or get some approval for. I don't know, but I have often kind of like missed the tail end of an experience because I've already shifted gears. Of like, oh, I'm gonna.
Yeah, you should read this book I just read called Essentialism. It's really good. You should read it too. It's about doing two things really well instead of trying to do 8 things mediocre, And I respond to that because, in this business, you're always trying to like move around and do this, and you have a production company and you have this company and you do this and you have a weed line or whatever. Like, it's just so much.
Yeah.
And then the integrity of the work is so elevated when you really focus on like this book I just wrote and this documentary I just shot. Like, this was the first time in my life I wasn't running around with my head between my legs. I actually sat down and was like, you know what? I have something to say now. I am going to write another book. I didn't want to write a book until I had something that was meaty or that had some oomph. I didn't want to just be silly and cash a check.
Right.
I wanted to say something. And so for me, that's a big lesson because we're always so busy and we always want to say yes and show up for people.
Yeah.
And there's a way to be better to yourself.
Well, and they've scientifically proven that multitasking is a fallacy. There's nobody's doing. You're just doing many things worse.
Yeah,
it's not. It doesn't work.
Right.
They've done a trillion different studies, and everything just slides, downhill.
Yeah, and better to find 2 things that you want to excel at, or 3 things, or whatever your number is. For me, like I want to be an incredible skier. I fucking love skiing. I love it so much. And I just want to be the best at it. Like not the best skier, but I want to be able to get down anything and never be scared of a mountain in my life.
When did this start?
Well, I started getting really into skiing about 7 or 8 years ago. I grew up skiing, but I was never like great at it. I'm still not. But I got hurt. I tore my ACL skiing in Switzerland. And after that, I was so trepidatious on the mountain. Before I was fearless and I could do anything. And after I hurt myself, I was so scared. And I remember a ski guide. I go to Whistler every year with my family for Christmas. And one of my ski guides was like, he goes, you're really scared now, huh? And when he said that, I was like, oh, fuck you, asshole. I was like, no fucking way. And I made sure that I'm no longer scared because that's the last thing.
Again, here's where your character defect helped you again. Like to be weak, fuck that.
Yeah.
I will do anything other than be seen.
Or rational. Like it's rational to be scared after you had an injury. It's not, it's normal.
But it's something about a man telling you that you look scared that like flipped my switch. I was like, oh, really? You motherfucker?
Exactly.
Like, let me show you.
Yeah.
So
that's why it's hard to hate. Like, it'd be easy to go like, oh God, I wish I wasn't an addict, and then I'm like, well, half the other side of the addict coin is like everything is good about me. Like I compulsively think about everything. I think that's why I'm a good writer. That's why you can't just like wish it all away because it's also like the best stuff.
Yeah, you got to work with what you've got.
Yeah,
and learn to like lean into yourself and not be like, oh. And once you recognize and identify why you're doing something or what the issue is, it's even nice to know like, oh, okay, when sometimes you're short with people or you're in a bad mood, it's like, okay, you're tired. You know what I mean? Like recognizing that instead of blaming the person you're talking to going, hey, shit, this is me. I'm in a bad mood. I didn't get enough sleep. I'm running around ragged. It's not your fault. But it's up to us to be like, okay, recognize your patterns of behavior and just go, all right, chill the fuck out. Well, it's so much hotter not to be fucking frenetic.
Or yes.
Stay tuned for more Armchair Expert, if you dare.
How do you feel about money?
I like it.
You like it?
I like having it.
Uh-huh.
What do you mean?
Well, like I would say it was fetishized in my house. We were broke, and then my mom started a business, and it started working, and like she worked her fucking ass off, and I'm obsessed with it. I don't think there's an amount I could have where I wouldn't be fearful I'm not going to have some when I get older.
Are you fearful that did you worry about it? Like,
Yeah.
A lot of people worry their money's going to go away.
Uh-huh. There isn't an amount you could give me that I think I would feel safe, just because I don't have a great relationship with it.
Right.
And I was just wondering what your relationship with it was, because you work your fucking ass off. I remember when I was doing your show and I said, like, what'd you do this weekend? And you're like, oh, well, I had 2 shows, but then they sold out, so I added a show, and then blah, 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 blah. And I was like, oh my God, you did 4 shows, and then I know how much time this fucking show takes up. And I just told myself, this person wants that money like I do. It would be hard for me to turn down.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the thing with this in business is like you hit and you start to get things and offers and you don't want to say no to anything because you want it all. And, now for instance, for this book tour, I'm doing a 20-city book tour, which for me is nothing because I'm like, we're only adding shows into like 3 markets. If I'm lucky enough to sell them out, then we can add shows in these markets, but I'm not doing that to myself again. I'm not going to burn myself to the ground because the quality decreases. By the time I did stand up the last time I did my book tour, which was like 4 years ago or 5 years ago.
But you haven't done stand up in 4 years? Oh, wow.
And I have no desire to really ever do it again.
Really?
I don't think I have anything to say in the stand-up realm, and I burned myself out. So my point was, I just did it too much and to the point where like, I wanted to walk off the stage more than I wanted to be on the stage. I was happier when the show was over.
Right.
I wasn't happier being on stage. That was never, even with my talk shows, I was always happier when the product was done. And it was like concrete and we were putting it out there. It wasn't the process that I loved. And a lot of people who are true, artists love the process more than they love walking away.
Yeah.
So I think all the nice things that came with it. Back to your money question, like there was so much that came with it that I realized, oh, this is this is a good ticket. But I burned out in every possible way.
But again, if the pattern in life is like, I need the result because I am basically proving people wrong at all times. So I need the result. I need the piece of paper, or I need this rating, or I need this thing. Then it can't really be about process. Like I totally agree with you and I relate to you because I see other people. I'm like, oh, that person just genuinely loves doing that. And it brought them to here on accident. All the other shit. I remember Bradley Cooper and I have been really good friends for 14 years. And we would talk about money and the way I would, what'd you get for that movie? And well, you should have got this, right? And I'm obsessed with what he should have got. He never once gave a fuck about money, ever, not once. But for my full goal in life too is aspiring to just love the process and not give a fuck about the result or the product or anything.
It's the integrity of the work. It's like the essentialism thing. It's like now, writing this book was the first time I've written a book. I mean, maybe my first book I enjoyed writing because it was a new thing and I loved it.
What's the name of the new book?
Life Will Be the Death of Me.
Life Will Be the Death of Me.
And you too. But being able to focus on something made the process. I just recorded my audiobook. This is something I hate, an activity I fucking hate, sitting in a booth, listening to my own voice, having to say sentences perfectly. And I went in there and banged it out in like 3 days, like 4 hours a day. And I cried. I mean, the book's, talks a lot about death. So there's a lot of that in there, and I cried and I laughed. And it was the most enjoyable process I've ever had, stuck with myself in an audio booth. Because it's a different structure now because I'm not, running.
Panicked about where you're supposed to be.
I'm not delivering a product for a paycheck. I actually wanted to write it instead of being offered a bunch of money to do something and then delivering. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, oh, we'll give you this book deal for however much money. And you're like, oh, I guess I got to write another book, and you're like, well, wait, do you have to write another book?
Right.
You don't actually have to write another book, so don't write anything until you have something to fucking say.
Yeah. And do you, when you were saying that, it reminded me, so my dad died of cancer, and after it was over, like 2 or 3 months after the fact, I was like, I'm having a really hard time connecting with what happened in the weirdest way. It's like, I know it happened. I was there every step of the way, but I'm not getting the like oomph feeling I was expecting. Is this like me protecting myself? Blah, blah, blah. So I was like, I need to write about it. So I told Kristen, like, for a couple days, I'm just going to write about it. So I wrote this thing not while I was writing it, but when I finished writing it and I read it, I got crazy emotional, and I was able to experience it through reading it. It was the weirdest thing, but I wonder if other people have that.
Yeah. I mean, I wrote this book in a lot of different places around the world because my friend runs the World Surfing League, this woman, that's a really good friend of mine. And so I would just hopscotch with her wherever, Bali, Bora Bora. And just, I didn't share anything that I was writing with her, but I wrote it in all these different places. And I'd be in airports, bawling, writing about my brother dying and what happened to my family or my mom dying. And you're sitting there and it's just, there is a catharsis to it that you understand, like, I get writing now. I get why people write and why it's important to go home and, if you've had something happen, to write it down. Like, my dog died suddenly, a few, last year, and I just went straight to my hotel room and just wrote everything down about it. Like, don't forget this feeling right now. Write everything you remember about him. I mean, he was like my first dog, so he was like made me a mother, he was my first rescue, and he was like my buddy. And so I never understood how powerful it is to get something out of your system, because now I've relinquished the pain in a way because I wrote it down and I'm putting it out there. I'm like, okay, I'm accepting that this is what has been like a stunt. It stunted my emotional growth for so long that I am ready to, there's a power in that. Makes you feel like I'm in charge of the rest of my life, not my brother's death. Death does not define me.
Right.
And I've let it define my relationships with men for so long that now I get it. I'm like, okay, great. And, and I'm not like a needy person. And, like what I was saying before, like, or I don't like to be weak. And to me, it's like wanting to be in a relationship always was like when you hear girls like, I want a boyfriend. And it's like, shut the fuck up. Be independent. Be stronger than that. And, it's when you relinquish that stuff and you let it go, and especially with writing, you can get to the other side. And then you're like, oh, this is really what being strong should look like.
Yeah. Now, do you, would you have liked to have gotten married and have been at this point with someone for... Okay, what I don't want to do is imply like that. I am in no way implying like, oh, you've failed at relationships, or you should be...
You can skip whatever you're about to say. I'm not implying that at all.
Okay,
I don't care.
Good.
And even if you did think that, I'd be fine with that too.
I don't think that. I'm just curious. I'm curious if you do wish you had maybe a decade with someone you're still with.
I don't know. I don't think about the past as much as I think about like, moving forward. I wouldn't be upset I think I'd be divorced if I ever got married. I think I would have made the wrong decision. I don't think I had done the work. I think it would have been a disaster.
Yeah.
And, a couple of times I had contemplated it. I would definitely have divorced both of those people at some point, or they would have divorced me. So I think now I'm in a position where I can make stronger decisions. I have better skills at that. You know what I mean? Looking for people that are healthy instead of not healthy.
Are you aware of what you do wrong in relationships?
Yeah. I mean, I haven't been in a lot of relationships. I've been in 3 long-term relationships as a 44-year-old woman, as my doctor told me is abnormal.
Well, that's exciting to be abnormal.
But it's about you have to be healthy to attract a healthy. But no, I would just want somebody, I don't know what I want. I just know that I'm ready to accept, if somebody comes in, not to judge them if they're wearing the most fucked up pair of shoes and discount them because I don't like the way that their shirt is hanging out of their pants.
Right.
All of those things that you allow yourself to be so disgusted by are not real things.
Right.
And to actually not judge somebody.
Well, what they're really doing
hard
is...
to do.
Guys are tricky,
It's
and their fucking
really
shoes are
hard.
tricky too.
But I believe you're always... you're building a case at all times, whether it's that this person is perfect for you or this person is not perfect for you. If you have commitment issues, then you're kind of just confirming that this person's not the thing, right?
Right.
You can kind of choose what you're going to focus on.
Yeah. And I've made bad decisions with regards to men. So it was time for me to take a break from that too. Because I didn't want to be swept up. I want something that's equal. I don't want to be swept up and distracted. I've let it take hold of me in an unhealthy, really kind of, destabilizing way where you're just at work and all you're caring about is when are you going to hear from him and talk to him? And I know we get those feelings. They're natural and they come up when you meet somebody and you're in love, blah, blah, blah. But it's not a really
Blah, blah,
healthy
blah.
way to go through life
Yeah.
long term.
Yeah.
And I don't want to behave that way. I don't want to check a guy's phone ever. I don't want
Right.
to even have the inclination to behave that way. So until I'm like, healthy, then I don't think it's fair to like keep putting, you can't wait for somebody to fix you. You kind of have to fix yourself. Again, it's an inside job.
Yeah. And do you have a pattern of people you're attracted to? Because what it seems like is
Basically a crapshoot.
what you're saying is physically you like black guys.
No.
Oh, no?
I mean, yes, but not only black guys.
Oh, okay. Well, in your thing, you said you had jungle fever. And even when I was listening, I was like, oh, where's
I do like black guys, but
Yeah,
I
yeah.
don't. I date white guys. Yeah.
Well, that's what I was going to say is, but your long-term boyfriends were white, but you like sexually, maybe you like black dudes. Is this a fair assessment?
No, I would be in a long-term relationship with a black guy for sure.
If he was a great skier.
Yeah.
We
It'd be great if I found a great black skier.
Yeah.
And he fit all the criteria. I'd be like, oh my God.
I bet like Colby could learn it in a week or something. I mean, someone,
Yeah, hello.
Yeah, they could pick it up if
Yes.
if they wanted you bad enough. But it's really easy to take your attractions as just natural to you, right? Like, well, I don't know, man. This is what I like. I could give you a list of the things I like, But I have at times been like, there's probably something behind that, though. Like you probably don't just like what you like. If life had taken different turns, you'd probably like something different.
Yeah, I want to be like looked after. Ultimately, I want somebody who's going to look after me and protect me and say, "Here you are. Where are you? Where aren't you home yet?" Like I never had that growing up. I had no one asking where I was. My parents would. I mean, I would go away for the weekend when I was like 11 or 12 with my girlfriends, and they didn't even know I was gone. So. Obviously, I wanted a strong, masculine guy. Black guys are strong and masculine. And I was attracted to that because it felt like they were protecting me physically.
That's interesting.
And it's very basic.
What about marrying dad? Like I married mom for sure.
Oh, you did?
Oh, sure. 100%.
Oh, yeah.
He said, like, I need you.
Do you ever call Kristen mom by accident?
Well, once you have kids, you switch permanently to mom and dad because you're always you're only communicating with the kids. Like, to ask mom is this, and then you just go, mom, did you blank? And then you're those people where I'm dad and she's mom.
Well, I mean, my dad, I think you marry the opposite or not marry, date. Everybody I dated was kind of like, not really. No, I mean, my father I found so kind of not repulsive in that way, but like I didn't want that.
Right.
So it was better to be alone than to be with anybody that was going to, bring me down,
Yeah.
or at least I could rely on myself. I'm the only person I can rely on. It's me, against the world, this whole mentality that you have to just be so fierce that
Yeah.
you have to like, that and then you become the fixer for everybody. Like I'll take care of it. Oh, my brothers and sisters, they need this. I got it. I'm going to control the family now.
Yeah.
I'll take care of it. Like I became the one that was dependable. So I'm not attracted to anyone like my dad by for sure. Like
Right.
I need guys
not
who
even
are
like
legitimate.
not personality wise, where like there's an unavailability that you're attracted to.
Yeah. That's
what I mean.
Yeah. The unavailability,
Like, and if I
emotional
could get-
unavailability. Is,
Yeah, and if I could get this person to
Yeah, I've dated guys that were overly emotional, like who were the opposite of my dad. And
sissies.
Yeah.
No, I'm
Yeah.
I'm just trying to make Monica
No,
mad.
like guys that are, I've dated guys that were, I've dated a guy once that was really needy. My boss from E, when I got my E show, we started dating like 3 or 4 months after I started my first show there. And he and I had a really bad breakup because he was fucking obsessed with me. And I'd come home and my show would be on, like
Right.
it was that kind of shit. And I was
Yeah.
like, I can't deal with this. You've got to chill out. He didn't have his own friends. He didn't want to do his own thing. If I went out, it was like, what time are you coming home? And I didn't respond to.
Yeah, nor
So then
should
the
you.
next, guy, I was just like, I went through a string of like non-attachment people, like I didn't care. I just wanted guys around to have sex with.
Yeah.
And I didn't want any commitment. And then I dated a guy that was emotionally just kind of tricky and just not a great guy.
Yeah.
And after I chose him and got back forth and broke up with him and got back together a couple times, I'm like, I have no business being in any relationship.
Right.
He just wasn't, cheated, lied and all that stuff. And I don't know. It just fucked me up that I was like, I'm not doing this again until I know what I'm doing.
Yeah. So there's just 2 more things I really want to hit because I find you really fascinating. But when I was remembering
no one
that you
else
dated.
does.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, right. You've had 5 books on the New York Times bestseller list. I'm sure no one's interested. I'm sure that was your sister bought all those.
With my money. Can you go buy these fucking books? That was cute. That's a cute thing. Once, my very first book that I wrote, My Horizontal Life, I wrote it and I came home to visit my parents. I came out and I did this like book tour and I was in, somewhere in Europe, in Antwerp, this random place for this book fair. And I remember coming home from there and my mom picked me up from the airport in the minivan and in the back there were just like piles and piles of my
is
book
Oh, that's
that
sweet.
she had gotten and bought at bars. And she goes, I went into, and my mom was so shy and like not like that. You know, she wasn't in your face. And she had gone to Barnes and Noble and she goes, I put all the books up front and then I went into the back and and bought all they want so that they know it'll be sold out. And I was like, oh, that's so cute.
You kind of already answered this question earlier, but I was wondering, because I've been guilty of it. Do you think by being so openly honest about your sexuality and fucking dudes, or the first book is My Horizontal Life, has that invited unwanted comments from guys that feel like they're allowed to talk to you like that? Because I even think I felt like I could start right off at a 10 with you. And just because you're being honest about it doesn't mean that you want to talk to strangers.
Or that they're allowed to talk to you
Yeah,
about your most personal.
And I feel like it's a trap only women are susceptible to. I think it's unfair. But I had weirdly this similar question for Amy Schumer, which
and
is like,
Sarah.
yeah, and
Silverman.
Silverman.
Both good friends of mine.
Awesome women.
Amy, Sarah, and me.
Yeah.
It's a good crew.
I know. I love
Fuck
those
yeah.
two. They're
But-
both great people too.
But have people felt like that you don't have boundaries and
Yeah.
that
People do that. Mostly women, though. Men don't. Again, men are like, oh, get her, get the fuck away from me. Women are more like, they think I do shots all the time, or they want to party, or like, women get like, I'll come to my shows and be like shit faced, and it's like, no, that's not what I was talking about. You know what I mean? Like, I'm
right,
not-
because you had vodka in the title
First
of your
of all, I'm
book.
fucking 40. I'm not
Yeah.
doing shots. I
Right.
try not to do shots. You know what I mean? It's not fun to do a shot. It doesn't taste good. But people do that stuff, but it's mostly women. Men have never like really, sometimes men can be inappropriate, but it's never been an issue.
Yeah.
No, I
Okay.
think.
Well, because also the ex-boyfriend, I was reading that today and I was thinking, man, you fast forward that same scenario to today, it's probably dodgy, right?
Yeah, you can't have sex with people you work with anymore.
And what
We
was
could've
the
really
age?
then.
What was the age difference?
20 years. So the father
Holy
figure thing was
yeah.
like, I always dated older guys. I've always dated older guys. So the father figure thing is
Yeah.
a definite thing.
We're just not sure exactly what.
Yeah, we're not sure exactly which issue we're pinpointing. But
Yeah.
he was 20 years older. We dated for 4 years, and I was madly in love with him.
Right.
But never once did I ever want to be married. I even in my deepest feelings for him, it was never on the table. I always assumed everything was going to be temporary.
Uh-huh.
Even that relationship. I
Yeah.
was always like, I love you. Of course, we'll be together. And then when I started to kind of outgrow the relationship is when, he really clamped down. And that's when I was like, okay, I'm out,
Yeah.
which is what happens.
Well, so first and foremost, I'm very in favor of the many things that are happening and evolving. And I think that there are a ton of terrible predatorial dudes. I'm also in defense of people dating at work. I'm also in defense of people dating their boss if they want to. I don't believe that people can't date their boss.
No, and I also think that work is where a lot of people meet.
Well, it's the
people.
only place you're at. Like,
So it's got to be I think we're in a period of overcorrection, which is completely necessary. And then hopefully we can shake this out to a point where, if two people want to be responsible and normal, they can definitely like each other and say, hey, do you want to go on a date with me?
Yeah.
It's just there is predatory behavior. And, just like you, and I'm sure like you, I'm embarrassed that I didn't know more about this whole thing.
Yeah, well, and again, I'll take full responsibility and ownership. But what the other very tricky thing is that for you to see yourself the way other people see you is very hard to do. I have never thought I was the boss, but I have been the boss when I'm directing a movie and there's 100 people. I am technically the boss, but I don't feel like the boss. I feel like a 12-year-old that somehow accidentally got into this party.
Yeah.
So
I can relate to
like
that.
it actually takes work to remind yourself, like, recognize that no, some people actually are looking at you in a way that you're maybe it wouldn't be healthy to acknowledge. I do have
Right.
power over people. I would never want to feel like I have power over people. Yet,
Yeah.
yet I'm required to acknowledge it.
Yes,
So then
exactly.
because I'm a dirty motherfucker. If you're around me, you're hearing sex jokes.
Me
you know
too.
what I'm saying?
Me too. I'm fucking disgusting and inappropriate, and I say things and I touch people. I constantly touch people.
Yeah.
And I mean, even during this documentary I was filming, I grabbed a black girl. I smacked her on the ass like in a way that I felt like I was like, oh hey, like sisterhood, like we're girls. I'm not gay. I'm not hitting on you, but like yeah, like sisters.
Yeah.
And she was not having it. Like she was really upset that I touched her butt. She's like, black women have been defined by their hair and their asses for centuries. You're not allowed to touch us that way. And I was like, holy fuck.
Yeah.
You're right. It's not about your intention. Fuck intention. It's about how it's received.
Yeah.
You can't say, I didn't mean it that way. That's how it felt to them.
Well, I think both things are true. Both
Yeah.
things are true. Intention is very relevant. If I smacked her ass,
Yeah.
it's different than when you did. So that is true. And then also, it's true that you were wrong and you shouldn't do it again.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
I think we're presented with one or the other option, but it's like all things can be true.
Like when they told me, and I got on the phone with this girl and I spoke with her, but when they told me that she was upset by that, I was like, well, what's the charge? Like, is there a charge here? Like, what are we calling this? Like, is this sexual harassment? They're like, well, it's harassment. I'm like, because it's unwanted. And I'm like, okay, but I'm not trying to fuck that girl. I'm not doing that. I'm certain, and they're like, no, it doesn't matter. It's unwanted. Like, it took me a minute to digest it.
Yeah.
And
Well,
once I took the time to actually understand where somebody fucking else is coming from rather than what my experience has been,
Yeah.
it made it a lot clearer that you are out of line, and a lot of the behavior that all of us have been getting away with for a long time is not acceptable.
100%.
But it sometimes requires mistakes. Sometimes it requires you doing it to then learn, oh, I can't do that again, or other people can't do that. But how do you know unless you do it? Sometimes
Yeah.
mistakes are part of the process.
You can still smack skinny white girls in the ass, though, right?
I think so,
Okay.
yeah.
I think I feel pretty good about that. But you're right, because what you immediately start doing is you start defending your character, or at least I do. I'm like, well hold on now. I'm not that thing that we've put in that box.
Right. Because, I mean, how many people are living in, fear, about, oh God, what's going to come out? What have I done this? Like we're all guilty of not behaving at our best all the time. So you're just, it's a good thing to think about.
It is, and boy, is it tricky, because there's yet another side of my brain too, where it's like someone just told Monica and I a story where they were making a bunch of jokes, and there was about 90 people there, and everyone was having a fucking riot and a blast, and it was awesome. And then one person did not like those jokes and reported it, right? So in a situation like that, I'm a little bit caught with like, well, I'm sorry. Also, one person can't ruin what 100 other people agree is fine with. So that's tricky too.
Yeah.
You know, does the trigger for one person trump the enjoyment of 100 people?
No, that's
Like-
good. I mean, that's a fair point, because it's like, well, what? But again,
I mean, I'm not saying smacking someone on the ass, but you know what
I
I'm
know
saying.
what
Like
you mean.
there are many examples we could think of where 99.9% of the people would enjoy it, and that one person, it would certainly bring up something traumatic, and then it's heartbreaking.
right. And then,
But are we prioritize that person?
That's true. I mean, we're in a difficult time right now, I think, for a lot of people. People don't know what to do or what to say, but, it's definitely warranted. People have overstepped and behaved so badly, but it is like, you're right. I mean, that's a great point. It's like 100 other people weren't offended, but what happened in your past? I mean, how are we supposed to know what everybody's pasts were? So like the only thing we can do is be sensitive to people's backgrounds and be racially sensitive, and not to say something that's stupid, and not try to put our foot in our mouth. But again, you do make mistakes and you learn from them. And I think I have to say, like, when somebody apologizes for something, we should accept it.
Yes.
I mean, I was lucky enough that she totally was cool with me when I did apologize, and we talked for a little bit on the phone, and I felt awful about it.
And
but
she loved the new car.
and you know what? Yes, of course, she loves her new house in Bel Air. She loves living there. I'm now living in a 1-bedroom apartment in Venice.
It's all projection, most certainly. But there have been so many things throughout the last 10 years where I'm like, I'm pretty darn similar to this person. Like, I feel like I really relate to this person.
I think we are similar after having this conversation. It seems that way. What do you think, Monica?
I think so, for sure. Yeah.
Will you tell Kristen?
Yeah. I don't know. I'll tell her to
Let
move
her
aside.
let her and the children know.
The thing that I've always listened and I'm always trying to read between the lines, I'm like, Is she one of us? Like, what's your relationship with drinking? Is it as close as it can be to where you would need to stop, or is it fine?
It's been. I've definitely pushed the limits in my life, for sure. Where there's like, you better rein it in. And when I have had to, I do. Now with cannabis, the drinking is a different thing. You know what I mean? Like with cannabis legalization.
Because you love like edibles and
I
stuff.
love edibles. I
Yeah.
love vaping. I love it. I mean, this is one of the first days that I probably haven't had a hit of a vape pen. And I mean, by this time, I usually have a hit at some point. It takes, I like, you know,
By the way, I'm very pro weed, just so you know.
well, everyone should be. I mean, it's like, hello, it's so much better than alcohol.
Yeah.
So that's changed a lot. But yeah, no, there was times in my life where I went too far and I've been out in public and been gross or messy and where I was like, you know, where people were like, you got to cool it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so yes, for sure. It's something that, and you know, with the thing for me about weed is that like at a certain age, it's not a hot look to be bloated. You know what I mean?
Sure,
It doesn't come off of you the way it used to. I'm in my 40s, so I have to work hard to be healthy. And it's important for me to like look, you know, as good as I can. And so that's the major.
You're doing a great job.
Thank you.
Yeah. Well, because I'd be like little clues, right? Like, so I'm listening to you on Stern, and then I think you're saying like once a year you always do a month clean out, right?
No, that's not me. I don't do that. I mean, I have, but not on the regular. But that's okay.
Well, it's definitely you.
A month?
I could have the terms wrong of the agreement, but you were saying
a day clean out.
that you'll do like a detox.
Yes, I do detoxes a lot.
Right. And then my just little spidey senses went, well, you know, most people don't feel the need to detox.
Right.
Like just a little clue for me. You know what I'm saying?
That's actually great. You're right. Because why are you detoxing unless you feel disgusting?
Right.
I will say there have been times where I've been, alcohol goes along with a lot of other things.
Yeah. Did you use powder your nose?
Yeah.
Oh,
sure.
God bless you.
I've done that. I mean, yes, I've definitely done that. That is a filthy, disgusting way to be.
It's what got me sober. I just want to say all this is a huge compliment to you because all this evaluation of you is me just going like, I could have had a real great weekend with her. Like I have always thought, had we met at the right time, we could have really fucking rolled our sleeves up and talked about some topics.
We would have. But I think, as a natural progression, I understand. I mean, obviously addiction is a huge problem. And I think, and I'm not saying that I don't have a problem or I do have a problem. Who knows? I know that I don't want to allow myself to get to a place where I have to quit something forever.
Yeah.
So if I have to remove alcohol from my life, then I do. You know what I mean? If I have to go for a while and not drink or have one drink and never have more than one drink, like, you know what I mean? I'm able to make those modifications because, first of all, it's more about vanity, to be quite honest, than anything else. And sadly, that's like true. The business we're in, it's like, I don't want to look tired. I don't want, you can only get away with that behavior for a while.
Yeah.
You can't get away with that as an older person. It's not a hot look.
Well, look, vanity saved my life. Like, I didn't quit smoking because I was afraid of lung cancer, although I acknowledged I was going to get it. I was like, I don't want wrinkles. I started noticing like, all these smokers, they look really old really quick. I can't afford to do that.
Yeah.
I mean, that really drove me to...
How'd you quit smoking? Nicorette?
Yeah, I am on the lozenges. I have been for 12 years.
Yeah, everyone seems to be addicted to lozenges. The
I
Nicorette.
Everyone seems to be addicted to lozenges.
I got hypnotized by that guy, Kerry Gaynor.
Oh, he's got a book,
Wait,
right?
tell us about hypnotizing.
It worked. Yeah, I quit smoking. I never smoked a cigarette again. I got hypnotized like, I think when I started my Netflix talk show, which was like 4 years ago I started. And I haven't had a cigarette ever since. He said to me the last day I left, he said, I go, can I hang out with friends that smoke? And he said, you'll never want to smoke again. Go outside with your friends tonight when they smoke cigarettes. You will never think of yourself as a smoker. It'll be foreign. And it is.
Wow.
I mean, even in like, there have been times where like, a girlfriend's in a situation and everyone whips out the cigarettes and I'm like, I want to help. I want to smoke a cigarette with you guys to be supportive.
Solidarity.
But it's so foreign to me. It's like I've never smoked
and even
a cigarette.
when drunk, because that's to me where
he
I
said,
go
out, drink, and have fun. You're not going to smoke, and I never did.
Do you remember that experience? We've talked about this before. Like, are personalities more susceptible to hypnotizing or not? And if
I'm susceptible,
right,
then I think almost anybody could.
You're encouraging, actually.
But
yeah.
My cousin she's a smoker and she didn't work for her. My driver, Billy, I know that's relatable. His wife smoked for 45 years.
I know that's relatable.
And I sent her and she hasn't smoked in 7 months.
What does he do? What does it?
I don't know. He's so weird and unsettling that it's almost like you want to get it over with so you don't ever have to see him again.
Sure, kind of like the pooping in the pants 3 times.
Yeah. Like I'm like, let's just get this.
Always in the
You're like a magnet.
I'm like, let's just get this down so I don't ever have to fucking come back to this Three's Company apartment in Santa Monica, which he has.
Oh, wow.
And he's a great guy, though. He helps with people's like with eating disorders and, phobia, plane flying, whatever. So for me, smoking was really gross. And then,
Say the name of your book one more time.
Life Will Be the Death of Me.
And when does it come out?
It comes out on April 9th. And I'm doing a 20-city tour. So there are still cities that have tickets available. So it's livenation.com for to buy tickets.
Okay, great. And then also I noticed when I Googled your name today, the very first thing that came up was your tour schedule. So I think it's very easy to find.
Great.
Yeah.
Good.
Whoever's managing,
I'll go
making
home
sure
and Google myself and make sure that's working.
you'll feel great by the end of that. Yeah.
It's always positive.
Remember in the beginning, like at the beginning of my career, I remember I was like constantly just so self-obsessed and Googling myself. And then you get to a point where you don't ever want to see an interview you've done or see a picture of yourself. You just are divorced from yourself.
I couldn't agree more. I always talk on here about that. There was a 2-year period that I had a Google alert on myself. So like anytime someone whispered Dax Shepard, I'd find out about it. And it just always, I felt terrible after it.
Yeah.
Even a positive review of anything I'm in, I figure out the way that it's bad.
Yeah, exactly. Well, we all do.
Yeah.
We hate ourselves. I don't know why.
Yeah.
So it's better
human
for me to I like to hear news about myself from other people. Sometimes I'm like, what? What did you did you respond to someone I was in a Twitter war that I didn't know I was in because I didn't fucking know with one of the Trumps or something. And somebody told me, they're like, we were waiting for your response to Donald Trump Jr. I'm like, what did he say? And I'm like, he said you did this and you did. And I'm like, oh, I'm so glad I don't know about that.
Yeah. Okay. So, and then you're doing more stuff with Netflix?
Yeah, I'm doing
You seem to have a real good thing with them.
They're that's my what do I say?
Peach Pit?
Yes, basically. Been at Netflix forever. Everything I do is at Netflix. But yes, I have a new documentary coming out on the that's coming after the book. So I'll do the tour, I'll do the book, I'll do the tour, and then I'll do the documentary and that stuff. And then, hopefully ski season will come back.
Yeah. All right. Well, I adore you. I always have. I hope I'll talk to you again somehow.
I hope so too.
Because you know what? You and I would never have this conversation without this.
I know.
Like, I know you. I know
Congratulations on this podcast. I listened to 6 episodes driving up to visit my family, and I was like, oh, wow, this is great.
Oh, thank you.
You're a psychologist, sort of.
Don't do that. Please don't. Please don't say that out loud.
I'm my own
I'm just
psychologist.
trying to go out on a high note.
Yeah.
Thank you.
But anyways, I'm really happy I'm seeing you, and I hope I see you again soon. I hope your book does fantastic, and I like you a ton.
Thanks, guys.
Thank
Thank you.
you.
Thanks for having me.
And now my favorite part of the show, the fact check with my soulmate, Monica Padman. How you doing?
Good. I'm cold.
You're chilly? Let me turn on the heater.
No, is it going to be loud?
I don't think it's too loud. Okay, so let's say what we wanted to say in the intro, but we didn't want to be weird in the intro.
Yes. Well, we've noticed a pattern.
Yeah, let's talk about the pattern we've noticed.
We've noticed a pattern.
It happened with Lena Dunham. It happened with Amy Schumer. It happened
Sarah
Silverman. It happened with Gwyneth Paltrow.
Chelsea Peretti.
We don't see this when we have men on,
No.
where all of a sudden the comments are super mean and critical.
And harsh and a lot of
before
hard
they've heard.
pass.
It's always before they've listened.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, anyone who had listened pretty much all said like, oh, I like her so much more than I was expecting to or whatever.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I think there's been a lot of quick judgment when we have strong females guests on who are known to have opinions. Yeah.
Even though a lot of our male guests are also known for having a lot of opinions.
Yes, and nobody seems to have that reaction. And I just
Your humble host has a tremendous amount of opinions.
Yeah. And I just would like to urge people, if they have the instinct, look, the hard thing is if they're listening to this part, they've listened already.
That's
so
true. That's true.
That's what's hard. But
I do want to say what my policy is. So, like, I did this on Gwyneth, which is, if you want to say something mean about one of our guests, I can't stop you from saying it on your feed. You should totally say what. I'm not trying to control your free speech. But on my feed, where our guests might go and look, I delete any negative, mean, terrible comments about a guest that just graciously gave us 2 hours of their time. And so I will delete it. And then if you keep rewriting it, which happened a couple times, I then block you.
Yeah.
So that's just the policy on my page. You
we
can
were
do with
keeping it
that
positive.
info what you will.
Yeah. If you have the internal response to write something like that, I would just urge you to think about why and what's happening in this specific case versus all the other people we have on our show, because there's no difference.
Right.
And it's been pretty stark and obvious.
Yeah, it's
to us.
hard to not realize or observe.
Yeah. And
Pretty clear pattern.
it is.
So yeah, that's our 2 cents about being positive on the comments.
Yeah.
Again, your feed can be as negative as you want it to be. That's fine. But ours is positive. We try to keep it positive.
Yeah. And I hope, sure, everyone can do whatever they want, but positivity is contagious. And if you're putting it out there, I do think it comes back to you.
I agree. I agree.
And negativity is the same way. So I hope our listeners, for their sakes, put out more positive energy.
Yeah.
Try to, anyway.
I agree.
Yeah. Anywho. So, Chelsea, man.
Chelsea. Now, did you have any preconceived opinions of Chelsea before she got here?
Yes, I was very intimidated by her before she came. As I am with a lot of these women, again, that all of the people that we just listed, I have felt intimidation about beforehand.
Right.
Which I know is tied in. It's all tied into this, where powerful, strong women are intimidating.
Right.
Even to people who have strong opinions themselves. It's so weird.
Yeah.
It's very weird. But for me, the intimidation, it doesn't come with anger. It's just like, like I'm like nervous. I'm nervous. Yeah.
Well, also, do you think there's a layer of it where you also respect these women?
Absolutely.
And so the notion that they might not
Yes.
like you,
Yes.
the stakes are high.
I want to impress them more than I want to impress someone else who I'm not intimidated by.
Right.
Yeah, for sure. I think this was definitely one of my top 3 favorite episodes. And she's so honest and insightful and really is trying to do good.
Yeah.
I just really like her.
Yeah, I like her too. And I like that she's trapped in a similar conundrum that I've been trapped in, which is like her comedy for years has been provocative and kind of calling bullshit, yet she is a good person who wants to enact change.
Yeah.
And so sometimes those things are now butting up against each other and probably evaluating, I guess I wouldn't have made this joke that I made before now.
Yeah.
I just relate to her a lot in that she's like kind of juggling these things where like she's crass and to the point, and yet she does care about people's feelings.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, that's very true.
And you're kind of picking like, okay, well, who does deserve this public criticism or shaming? Well, there was a thing on John Oliver about it the other day. It is a curious question. It's like, who can you ethically, publicly shame?
Yeah. And that was interesting on that show because he said that it may seem like we do that all the time, which we do. He was like, but we put a lot of thought into who we think it's okay to do that to and who we don't.
Right.
It's very interesting. It's one of those, when we had Mike on, he always uses that phrasing, punching up.
Right.
It's like you can punch up, but you can't punch down.
Right.
And I think that's generally a good rule.
Mm-hmm. I do too. Yeah.
Yeah.
I just remember when people were mad at me for making fun of the movie The Expendables on Conan. I was making fun of Sylvester Stallone and what other jacked up huge guys in that movie. And I was saying that they can't fight fast. Oh. But they still have big muscles, but their tendons aren't in great shape. So they have to lie down to fight and stuff. People were mad. And I was like, if you can't make fun of the most alpha rich white dudes in America, who on earth can you make fun of?
Yeah, I agree. That's silly.
Chelsea Handler. She'll handle you.
Oh, yeah.
Do you know I used to sometimes call her Chelsea Lately because her show was called Chelsea Lately, and I would think for seconds that her name was Lately.
Yeah, I could see that happening.
I think when I spoke with my father about her, my dad, I didn't bring it up again because I told her in person, but my dad was obsessed with Chelsea.
Oh, really?
Oh, he thought she was so fucking hot. In fact, when I told her, I'm like, my dad is like, he has the Playboy interview you did is like sits on the coffee table. He's just obsessed with her. And she goes, yeah, that mostly old men like me.
That's really
but,
funny.
Dave Sr. had a thing for her like you can't imagine. But again, he was very confident. He wasn't afraid of some
He wasn't afraid.
outspoken gal.
I like that.
Mm-hmm. Well, he picked my mom at one point.
I know.
That bitch ain't keeping it quiet on any topic.
No. Anyway, so, we talk a little bit about her books and like who you can talk about. Can you talk about your siblings, or can you talk about ex-boyfriends and all of that stuff? And I think about that on this show a lot.
Sure.
Like,
absolutely.
In our storytelling. Like,
Yeah.
these are real people.
Yeah.
One time Anthony said that to me, not about him, but he was like, oh, you told a thing and it was about Eric Covington.
Oh.
He was like, do you feel weird about that? And I was like, no. And then he was like, well, yeah, I mean, he's a real person out in the world. And I'm like, yeah, that's true.
Well, but I don't think the determining factor is just using someone's name or not. Everything you told about Covington was
Covings?
your own obsession with him.
Yeah.
You didn't say about any of his behavior or his actions.
No.
You didn't.
Well, I did say that he slept with the student.
Oh, I guess. Well, that's a fact, right? I hope.
I mean, I don't know. Even if it is, it's still like me talking about some random person in the world who exists.
Yeah, I guess for me, my barometer of whether I say someone's name is just simply if it's all about me.
Yeah.
It's just all about admissions of myself. Like, I think Randy Hammond was the cutest girl in my junior high.
Right.
I'm fine saying that.
Yeah. We're also not saying anything negative except the sleeping with a student.
But I don't even think you were painting that as a negative.
No, I wasn't, but
You were hoping he would sleep with you. And it was an adult. He's not a high school teacher, he's a college teacher.
yeah, and she was an adult. Yeah.
And then they
I think they
get
dated.
married.
Yeah, now they're still together.
Oh.
Real easy.
You're right.
I don't know if I'm right.
I
don't
think
know
of
if
it more in terms of when I think about it on your end, the only time I think about it is like, oh, your mom and dad.
Yeah.
You know?
I know.
Yeah. But man, you're allowed to talk about your mom and dad. Although it is tricky because yours are both still alive and have jobs. And
Yeah.
like my dad, I can talk about, he's dead. So
Right. You talk about your mom a lot.
I talk about her a lot, but I have her express permission.
Right.
Yeah. She's like, yeah, go ahead and say whatever.
Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah. Okay, so she said, she was talking about Kathy Griffin, and she said, she got in a thing with Brooke Shields, and I wanted to know what that was. And I guess it was that Kathy made fun of Brooke's mom at her wedding.
Oh.
I'm sorry, I don't.
In her stand-up.
Yes, about Brooke's wedding and her mom.
Yeah.
I think it was in her stand-up. Anyway, so I heard she was talking about it on Howard Stern. I heard the little clip.
And what'd she say? Well, Howard says the same thing right to her face. You'll never be at my house.
But he has her on his show a lot.
Just on his show, but that's in a studio.
But okay, but so what she's saying, what Kathy was saying on the Stern clip is like, Howard, the part of this is your fault because every time I come on here, Howard kept trying to get
Pry info out of her.
Yeah, and he kept saying over and over again, say Brooke Shields is funny. Say it.
Oh.
And then she's in a weird position there because she doesn't want to say it if she doesn't think it's true. But if someone's telling you to do that.
I don't think it's that weird of a position. If I go on Stern and he says, say Monica's blank, no, I'm not gonna. Or I was on Howard Stern. He's asking me about who I fucked and I just don't tell him.
No, he's trapping her in a way because either she says, oh, yeah, Brooke is funny. But then she's lying if she doesn't think that's true.
Right.
That's the nice way to do it, is to lie, essentially.
Right.
Or she just says, I'm not going to say that. And then I'm not going to say that means she's not funny.
Right.
It's a trap. Anyway, that was part of the conversation.
Oh,
and then
okay.
and then Howard said that she made fun of her mom. People
Yeah.
get really, people get really protective of their family.
Of
too.
course.
Yeah.
And their home.
Yeah.
Like you don't want to invite someone over and then part of someone's stand-up is describing your household,
Right.
you know?
Yeah. You probably don't want that. No.
I think Howard's pretty much the North Star. He navigates it very well.
But
You know what I'm saying? Like he knows somehow what stories he can tell and which ones he can't. Like Chris and I have stayed at his home. He's never brought that up on the radio,
right.
even if he's on the topic of Kristen.
Mm-hmm.
And he knows there's a wall between that studio and his real life.
Yeah.
And he never talks about his daughters.
Right.
So anyways, he seems to have,
Yeah.
juggled it.
Yeah. So you said that Kristen has rescued 1 trillion dogs.
Mm-hmm.
She has not rescued 1 trillion dogs.
There's probably not even 1 trillion dogs in the
Well, now
history
there's
of the
something
planet.
else to look up. She's rescued Muffin Chelsea. She's rescued Muffin Chelsea, Sugar, Lola, Shaky, Pat, Glenn, Emmy and her 5 puppies. And then she's fostered.
Well, she already left one out. When she moved in, she had that black lab. Sadie, did you just say Sadie?
No.
Yeah.
Sadie's not
See,
on
she's
here.
even forgotten ones. That was a Katrina dog that breathed like Darth Vader
Right.
and pooped in the house every day.
Okay, so she's between rescuing and fostering. I would say she's at like
20 some.
no, like 14.
Oh, okay.
So that's
Not a
lot.
trillion.
Not 1 trillion, but a lot.
Okay, so 14 is not 1 trillion. That's what we learned today.
Anywho, but she has obviously rescued quite a lot. She does
Yes.
a good job for these dogs.
And I've seen her pull over and see a dog that's just running about on their own, under their own supervision,
Right.
and then figure out how to get that dog back to the owner. I've watched that happen at least 10 times.
Yeah, that's nice. What percentage of rescued dogs have been abused? Well, according to the ASPCA's National Rehoming Survey, pet problems are the most common reason that owners rehome their pets, accounting for 47% of rehomed dogs and 42% of rehomed cats. Pet problems were defined as problematic behaviors, aggressive behaviors, grew larger than expected, or health problems owner couldn't handle. So that's not abuse.
Right, so that's half of them right there.
Yeah.
We know is not abuse.
Right. So maybe max 53%, but
Come
probably
on.
not.
Yeah, I don't think so.
I think when dogs are like skittish, people think they're abused.
Right, I know. And a lot of dogs are just skittish.
I know.
Yeah.
But I don't really know enough about dogs, so I can't really say that.
Okay, but you did, and I agree with you.
Okay. So in her marriage doc, she talks about her dad and how he comes in and he says, I love you. I miss you.
Uh-huh.
And you said you heard that and you were like, ugh, he's guilting you.
Uh-huh. Did you watch it?
No.
Oh,
I want to watch it though.
yeah. I think you'd feel the same way.
Well, no. Maybe.
You got to see the delivery. It's not the words.
You yourself have a thing about when people say, I miss you to you. And
You're right.
it's
Because I feel overextended. I feel like I'm letting a lot of people down.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people I feel that I have, I don't know, an emotional responsibility to.
Mm-hmm.
And I sometimes feel overwhelmed by that.
Yeah.
Like at one time, I have my mom living at the house,
Mm-hmm.
and my sister there, I have my wife, I have 2 kids, I have you, I have
Mm-hmm.
just a lot of people who I'm very emotionally connected to.
Yeah.
And then if I start working 80 hours a week, I start feeling like, oh my God, all these people are feeling like I'm not there for them.
I know.
So yeah, it does make, I feel guilty when people say,
You do.
I miss you. But he goes, I miss you. That's how he said it. Not, oh, I miss you.
I know. I just think this is triggered by your own thing in such
Okay.
a big
Might be
way.
projecting.
I think you're projecting, and I think
Also, the notion that she's famous, so I'm probably like,
Yeah.
you know, there's kind of general, like, here's a great example. I won't name any names, but my mom started getting some emails about the fact that I had not attended certain family reunions, and they were critical of that. And then my mom rightly pointed out that my siblings hadn't attended that either,
Right.
and that there were no emails about them.
exactly. Yeah.
So that was very astute of her to point that out. And I do think once your famous people are looking for you to have changed, And
Yes.
so they're finding proof of that wherever they look. So I
That's
also think I'm really sensitive to that. So when I saw that, I miss you, I was like, oh, he's because she has the job she has, even though her sister and brother probably are just as unavailable through their jobs.
But maybe we don't know.
We
We don't
don't
know the
know.
dynamic, and maybe he just misses her. Like, it's okay.
Yeah, that's very true. That could be.
And I think when you feel guilt about it, I just want you to work on that.
Okay.
Because it's weird. It does it has such a weird rippling effect.
Mm-hmm.
Because when people know that you don't like hearing it, they then can't say it.
Right.
And maybe they need to or want to say it, not to make you feel bad, to make you feel the truth, which is
Missed.
that you're missed.
Right.
Which should make you feel good and should make you feel
It
like somebody
should.
loves you and somebody misses you and wants you around.
It really
they-
should. It makes I feel like I'm failing that person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But in kind of a bizarre way, this person is unable to do something they want to do because of your guilt.
Yes. I feel like I'm not meeting their needs.
Yeah.
And then I feel like I have no control over that because of whatever extraneous circumstance I'm in where I'm not available.
Yeah.
Yeah, it just becomes a whole spiral for me.
I know.
Yeah. I agree with you. I agree.
Yeah.
I will I
just
will
want you to
work
work
on
on
it.
it.
I will.
And try to
So I
hear-
should say I thank you when someone says that?
Well, I don't know if you need to say thank you, but
Wait, try it with me. Try it.
I miss you.
Thank you.
You don't have to say anything, but I
Probably just I miss you too.
if you do, I mean, I
Yes.
guess you shouldn't say it if you don't, but I
Well, I do. I miss all the people I love that I'm not around
Yeah.
when I'm not around them.
yeah, I think you need to take it for what it is, which is somebody cares about you,
Mm-hmm.
and that's all it is. Oh, is there a big Mormon contingency in Germany? Because remember, her mom is Mormon and German. So the first congregation of Latter-day Saints was organized in Darmstadt in 1843, which is in Germany. Is that true?
No, well, that would have to be the first one in Germany.
That's what I thought. But then it says Elder John Taylor of the Quorum of the 12 Apostles preached in Hamburg in 1851 and supervised the translation of church literature into German. Due to strong persecution, many of the early members immigrated to Utah. Okay, so that's just still...
Yeah, it all starts with Joseph Smith
Right.
in upstate New York and then makes its way to Ohio where he has a settlement for a while and then he gets driven out of there for the polygamy.
Right.
And then they go to Utah and then Brigham Young as a military standoff. That's why he's heralded.
Got it.
Yeah.
Well, so...
I don't even know that Joseph Smith made it to Utah, to be honest.
Oh,
I can't remember the exact history, but I don't know that he even made it there.
got it.
Yeah.
Well, it says today, Latter-day Saints in Germany, the total approximately 36,000. Many of them second, third, and fourth generation members of the church. That's not very many. I think according to one graph, if I read it correctly, it's 0.05%.
Oh, okay.
So,
Not a ton.
no. The book Essentialism.
She recommended that I read it while we were talking, and I have since read it.
Oh, you have?
Yeah.
Okay. Essentialism, The Disciplined Pursuit of Less by Greg McKeown.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a hot book right now.
In your circle, particularly, right?
My circle is reading it.
On your Marco Polo chain.
I haven't read it yet, but I would like to.
It's a good book. You know what's funny is it was kind of already preaching my position for the last 20 years. So I agreed with all. I didn't need chapter after chapter to convince me. I agreed with the thesis right out of the gates.
Right.
And I thought it was a good one.
Yeah.
If anything, maybe alleviated a little guilt I had about, traditionally what people directing movies are supposed to do is while one is being edited and there's like heat around that, you go set up another one so that you're filming before the movie comes out in case it fails.
Yeah.
Which in my case, I could have benefited from twice.
Uh-huh.
And I didn't do it. But my defense of that was I can't edit a movie well and think about other things.
Yeah.
I have to have tunnel vision on something
Yeah.
for me to execute it. My brain doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
So this kind of made me feel less guilty about
Yeah,
that.
that's great. Well, that's the next fact because you said they've scientifically proven multitasking is a fallacy and that they've done 1 trillion different studies. You were into the word trillion.
Ooh, I was loving it.
Yeah.
Feeling trillion.
And yes, the very idea is nothing more than a myth and a scientifically impossible phenomenon. Psychologists have shown that it is impossible for the human mind to completely focus on more than one thought at a time. Traffic jam is a perfect metaphor. This was in Entrepreneur magazine. All successful entrepreneurs know that they cannot perform at the highest peak of their potential when a traffic jam is going on in their heads. In psychocybernetics, they say peak performers virtually worship at the altar of focus and concentration, working tirelessly to achieve it for very good reason. Concentration is a major key to minute-by-minute success in any endeavor. So when you are attempting to multitask, what you are doing is reducing the amount of focus and concentration necessary for each task. In other words, you will never be able to give each task 100% of your complete concentration.
Yeah, that was another I had some interesting thoughts while reading it, which were, this is a great book, assuming you have a super desired ability or skill set. Because it's kind of urging you to basically say no to a lot of requests at your job so that you can do the one that you're great at and that'll benefit the company. But it kind of presumes you're in a position where that's going to be valued. It's a little... I don't want to say elitist, but it's a little impractical for probably most people's jobs. Like what it would ask you to do would get you fired, I think, from most places. So it was a little bit of me was
dicey.
Well, this is great advice if you're a programmer who has a very specific skill set that would be optimized by singular focus. But if you work at Starbucks, you're going to take the fucking order, then you're going to make the coffee, then you're going to write a name on a cup, whatever.
Yeah, it feels a little bit pie in the sky.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah, I get that.
It's still a great book. I think people would really more benefit from the social implications about saying yes to too many people.
Yeah.
Saying yes to what are really maybes, learning how to decide that a maybe is really a no.
Yeah.
All this kind of thing.
I don't have much problem with that.
Yeah. Well, again, you'd probably read it. We are similar in that way.
But I do multitask a ton, but I definitely have a fine time saying no to something I don't want to do.
No, well, you did it. You had different job requirements and the podcast required so much focus that you had to say, I can't do certain things anymore.
Uh-huh.
Other people would have just kept trying to do all those things and done a really shitty job at all the things.
Right. She said normally by this time she would have had a hit of a vape pen.
Mm-hmm.
So we recorded at 3.
Oh, okay. That's
I just
relevant.
wanted people to know in case they thought it was 10 a.m., which still maybe could be the case. But by 3:30, she's probably had a hit of vape, is what she's saying.
And I probably pointed that out. Not a nicotine vape, weed.
Yeah.
Yeah, marijuana.
THC or CBD.
Who knows what kind of
Combo.
vape she hits?
I don't know. That's it.
That's that?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we loved her, and
So much.
yeah, I hope people. I will say one thing. We started by saying don't write negative things. The much bigger headline is 99% of the comments are people who have an open mind and listen to someone that they thought was one thing, and they kept an open mind, and that's sexy and hot.
Oh, it's hot.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's the hottest. So congratulations to all the people, the sexy hot minds.
Yeah. We like you.
We love you,
We love you.
and I love you.
Love you.